Welcome everybody to the ordinary meeting of Council for the month of May. Nice to have you all here and good to be with you. We'll now call the meeting open, and we have no nil leave of absence, so good to have everyone on board. And now I'd like to call on Pastor Mark to deliver the opening prayers. Thank you, Pastor Mark.
Oh, there we go. Thank you. And blessings on you as you meet this year. I was thinking, so many things you can sort of reflect on at this time. What does God's word say? God's word says we are not an orphaned planet, that amidst the coronavirus and amidst the just everything that's going on, God has not deserted us. And I was reminded of a passage only yesterday that I was reading from 2 Corinthians 1:20, where Paul, the writer of this letter to the Corinthian Christians, he's talking about Jesus as God's yes. Namely, how can you be sure God keeps his promises? How can you be sure God hasn't deserted you? And Paul keeps saying over and over again, Jesus is the proof, and actually uses this terminology that Jesus is God's yes. And I'll just read this one verse or two verses to you from 2 Corinthians 1, verses 19 and 20. For Jesus Christ is God's yes, for it is he who is the yes to all God's promises. And that is why through Jesus Christ our Amen is said to the glory of God. Let's pray. Father, we just thank you that Jesus is the reminder that you have not deserted this world, as difficult as it can be at times. But also you remind us that you haven't deserted our world because you continue to give us good government and people who care and people who help those in need. So we pray today in particular for this tier of government here at this local level as they meet and discuss and make decisions and consider the welfare of a community. Lord, we pray that you would give them wisdom and the right direction and the right words as they discuss and meet today. We thank you for their leadership, for their contribution to our community. Bless them and their families and this community. We pray these things in the name of your great yes to us, Jesus our Lord. Amen.
Thank you for your prayers, Pastor Mark, and of course our prayers and thoughts are with you and your congregation this time as well. Now I'd like to call on Pastor Max Conlon from the Elder of the Waka Waka people to provide us with the acknowledgement to country. Thank you, Max, and lovely to have you here.
Thank you, Brother Mark, and for the council for the privilege of being here. I guess some guys have been chasing me for some time, but this Murray go walk about a lot with other ministries and stuff too, right across the country. So I feel it's so valuable for me to be here in your presence, and always be assured that not only our church, but our Murray people and clan group always think well of the council and pray and support the council, as Kathy knows very much. And this fella's always been a part of our Murray family for a long time, and his dad. So I better be careful what I say because his dad might clip me in the ears. In saying that, and when we look back just briefly, and I'll just elaborate, and this is the place where God has placed the people, the clan, I was going to say Kalali mob. That's my other mob out there, Waka Waka clan. That's my grandmother, great-grandmother, my father's mother. Come from, was Sherberg, and I'm a part of that clan. And I'm really thankful for that. In saying that, as time shifts and changes, it causes other things to change over the period of time. And from our mob, from colonisation to the changes with management. And therefore, after that, there were changes where man had to be sufficient in life to go out with the challenges of life and to change and transition to the changes of life. That's our mob. And through that, me growing up at Mergen High School, we finished in there, and we grew up. I won't take too long of your time. I'm a preacher man, so you could understand that. And in saying that, it caused a lot of us to grow up in Mergen High School with other guys. And say, relationship was so important for us, and for other people to advance in society and in the community that we live in, to participate, to give, and to add and to contribute to society. And that's what I've been greatly privileged. I have a lot of friends outside. I grew up with a lot of the guys, and we're still friends with that today. I got more white fellas, my uncles and aunties, than my Aboriginal mob, you know? And I feel privileged in it, and they feel privileged too. But in saying all of that, and the time was, I think, and there's a lot of great Aboriginal people came out of Shubig. And today, as you know, in society, and they add to the community in a successful way also too. And that because of my relationship, I'm thankful for that, with my people, and they're still friends today, and they advise me, they stand with me, walk me, likewise I with them. And that's why I'm greatly privileged, and that's taken me to places where I am today. And one day I might even sit in the A. My grandfather used to serve in this community for a long time, old Jack O'Chin, with Sir Bajolka Peterson. And I've got a passion for that, for economics and development and all that stuff too. But as far as that goes, and for you guys, we are so thankful for you guys in your position that you hold in the community, and please be assured that we walk with you. That's our clan. If it's not them, it's me, myself. And I will always support the development and stuff that you further to endeavour in your future travels and journeys of taking the South Burnett forward. So God bless you. On behalf of the Waka Waka people, we'd like to welcome you and thank you very much for your time and your efforts and in the future of your endeavours. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Max, and we're very privileged to have you in attendance, and your words were very relevant to the new council as we look to progress our region. The Indigenous, we're blessed to have such a diverse region, and of course an important part of that is the Indigenous people that we have across the region. Thank you very much, Pastor Max. We'll now move on to item 4.1 on the agenda, which is the confirmation of the minutes from the previous meeting, which was held in Chambers on the 29th of April 2020. Do we have a mover for that motion? Thank you, Councillor Duff. Seconder? Thank you, Councillor Potter. Any discussion in relation to those? Any matters to raise out of the minutes? Okay, all in favour? Passed unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 5 on the agenda is declarations of interest in relation to the matters on the agenda today. Do we have any disclosures of interest, conflicts of interest? I do have one, and that is in relation to item 8.2. For myself, I'm the director of a company, Boa Queensland Proprietary Limited, which operates the business of Otto Accountants, which operates premises which utilise the Alfred Street car park. So as such, I will be seeking leave of absence from the meeting when that matter is spoken to and voted upon. And I'll be handing over to Councillor Jones as the Deputy Mayor to conduct the meeting in attending to that item. Okay, on to item 6. Do we have any petitions or presentations? No, don't believe so. So we'll continue moving forward. Thank you all. Item 7 is the portfolio report on social and corporate performance, people and culture, communications, media, finance and information communications technology, being item 7.1 on the agenda. And I'm pleased to present that report to Council. So last month, my fellow councillors and I completed an intensive induction program led by our Chief Executive Officer, Mark Pitt, and we're very grateful to Mark and his staff for the timeliness and quality of the information shared. The program provided our newly elected council with a detailed understanding of the operations of the council, as well as our roles, responsibilities and obligations to the some 33,000 people living within the region. Pursuant to such, our new council is committed to working diligently over the next 4 years in becoming a model council, in applying the local government principles, In conversations with the people of our region over the past 9 months, they have made it clear that their expectations of their council are very much consistent with these principles. These governing principles, to which the people of the South Bennett are entitled, include transparent decision-making at all times in the public interest, democratic representation, social inclusion and meaningful community engagement, ethical and legal behaviour of councillors and local government employees. Our new council has had extensive early discussions in relation to the issues raised by our community during the election process. It is evident from these discussions that within coming months we will need to work actively with our communities to rewrite our 5-year corporate plan. This is necessary to strengthen our community's assets sustainably and delivering the services that the people of our region deserve in an efficient, effective, and most importantly, accountable manner. Our pledge to the people of the South Burnett is that in rewriting our corporate plan, we will ensure that Council consults extensively across the individual towns and villages, the farms and the industry, to ensure that the corporate plan is indeed the people's plan. At the end of the process, the result will be a plan for the South Burnett that provides direction from the community to councillors and staff in working over the next 5 years to create a more prosperous and sustainable future for all people across our region. Development of the Operational Plan 2021. Over recent months, Council has been reviewing and examining data in preparation for the development of the 2021 Operational Plan. Now, our task as a regional local government in developing our operational plan is to ensure we are providing our communities with essential services and balancing priorities in an economically responsible manner over the course of the next financial year. In pursuit of such, we will need to act carefully and responsibly with the health, social and economic impact of COVID-19 in the forefront of our minds. Over the coming weeks, Council will provide information to the community to assist in their understanding of what Council plans to deliver during 2021. People and culture. A strong effort has been made over the last 8 weeks to engage with all staff as to suitable work arrangements during the current pandemic. Job security and community safety has been the priority of the people and culture team in ensuring that the business of Council continues without jeopardising the health and well-being of our people. And I must say, our people and culture team have done a tremendous job under very difficult circumstances, and must acknowledge the work of not just that team, but of our CEO and our general managers in ensuring that the business of Council continues, that people are able to come to work, still be engaged in the jobs that they all enjoy and love, with minimal disruption due to COVID-19, but in doing so, keeping everyone well, healthy and safe. Workplace health and safety statutory training, has in some instances been held up due to the current situation with COVID-19. Some licence renewals are being held over by the state, but internal training is also being utilised where possible. We are pleased to see that officer and field staff collective agreements have now received a successful vote. And isn't that wonderful to see? Application documents are progressing to the Industrial Relations Commission for certification of the 2 collective agreements. Our sincere thanks go to everyone involved in the process for your patience and cooperation. Long overdue, but thanks to the hard work of all parties involved, we've now got progress happening in this very important area. Communications and media. In April 2020, the media team worked tirelessly in circulating 39 media releases, including, and I'm going to list them because it demonstrates the hard work that our media team have been doing. Update 7, COVID-19, limited access to Council's public amenities, waste management facilities, Queensland Health reports on the second case of COVID-19 in the South Burnett, temporary water interruption, upcoming reseal works on state-controlled roads, oil systems and regional expansion, update on essential roadworks in April 2020, African swine fever, details on travelling through the South Burnett, Council news on Friday 3 April, temporary closure of the Nango standpipe, temporary road closure at Means Road, Memorandum, South Burnett Council Library Services, one called This Sucks, New Dust Extraction System Online, footpath construction at Haley Street, Wondai, an update on the sewer relining program, change of date for post-election meeting, South Burnett Regional Council introduces initiatives to assist local business. Requests for tenders for pre-qualified supplier panels were extended to 28 April. Wild dog and feral pig baiting program. South Bennett Regional Council post-election meeting scheduled for Monday 20 April. South Bennett Regional Council Mayor and Councillors formally declared. How will you be involved with Anzac Day in 2020? South Bennett Regional Council Mayor and Councillors take office. Privacy Awareness Week by Edo keeps connected. Mayor's statement on COVID-19 economic stimulus. Sounding the sirens for Anzac Day. Council elects new chair of LDMG. Council meeting scheduled for Wednesday 29 April. Update on the Kingaroy water replacement program. What is considered essential travel. Lamb Street, Mergen CBD footpath, curb and channel replacement. 2020 council meeting dates confirmed. Council to write off unpaid rates and overgrown allotment charges. Council brief. Restrictions eased for South Bennett dams and recreation areas, and access to council facilities amended as restrictions lighten. So it demonstrates the point there. It's a lot to go through, but it demonstrates the work that our media team have done in communicating and keeping our public informed, particularly in relation to COVID-19 and important matters like Anzac Day. In addition to that, the team received 11 media inquiries from various organisations, both locally and across the network channels of ABC particularly. In April, Council made 72 Facebook posts, with the most popular being the COVID-19 update of 1 April, reaching an audience of 8,477. Council's South Bennett Region Facebook page ended the month with 7,541 likes and 7,442 followers. Council purchased 2 full-page ads in the South Bennett Times during April, reaching an estimated audience of 9,200, and published 3 classified public notices in the same publication. The first of Council's mayoral press conferences was held after the 29 April ordinary meeting, with attendance from the Martu Review, the South Bennett Times and South Bennett Online. Council and the media team are committed to implementing a strong communication and media strategy over the current term of Council in the interest of ensuring the community are kept informed in an open and transparent manner. Finance. The monthly report illustrates the financial performance and position of South Bennett Regional Council compared to the proposed third quarter budget. At an organisational level, for the period ended 30 June 2020, this financial report is prepared based on interim financial results as at 30 April 2020. Overall, recurrent revenue is tracking high at 91% due to rates being levied in February and the timing of the rates write-offs, which will be processed in the next month. Fees and charges and rental income are also tracking high at 99% and 97% respectively, due to the timing of applications and annual invoices/registrations. Due to the impact of COVID-19 on the economy, we do not anticipate receiving any more substantial fees and charges by 30 June 2020. Overall, recurrent expenditure is tracking on target at 83%, and materials and services is tracking high at 86%, mainly due to the timing of end-of-year provision adjustments and the credit for the adjustment in KPMG fees relating to the fuel tax credit claim. There are also a number of annual invoices that have been paid. This will be monitored by Finance through to the end of the year. Finance costs are still tracking slightly low at 63% due to the number of end-of-year adjustments that will be performed at 30 June 2020, including landfill and gravel provisions. It should be noted that while depreciation is tracking on target, the processing of work in progress and disposals remains underway for roads, fleet and ICT, which may impact the final year-end balance. Employee benefits is tracking on target. However, the amount of capitalised wages, end-of-year adjustments and enterprise bargaining negotiations will affect the final June numbers. Cash and cash equivalents are sitting at 46.6 million. This is high due to the rates discount ending last month. This balance will decrease over the next few months as revenue streams reduce to a minimum. Accounts receivable debtors' 90-day balance has significantly reduced this month, with the Niagara Road project payments being drawn down from trust. While debt collection has been temporarily suspended due to the impact of COVID-19, outstanding debts are still being monitored and followed up internally. Rates in arrears are currently $7.263 million, or 12.8%. This has again decreased since the previous month. The current monthly ratios are tracking on target, except for the operating cash cash ratio, which is sitting above the target benchmark. This is due to the spike in trade and other receivables from the February rate run. Of the total available capital budget of $37.4 million, 70% has been spent to date, including committed costs. Road maintenance has increased approximately $677,000 from March to a total actual and committed cost of $5.404 million. Works for Queensland has $3.078 million of actuals to date, with a further $809,000 in committed costs. The next milestone claim has been submitted, with the $1.8 million expected to be received within the next month. The external audit plan has been finalised, and Council's first interim audit is currently underway, with auditors commencing their first interim audit remotely on the 27th of April 2020. The next visits are scheduled for May and September 2020. Council is also in the process of preparing the 2021 budget. Councillors and staff will continue to invest many hours over coming weeks in working through the budget in detail. I would now move that the portfolio report for what is social and corporate performance, people and culture, communications, media, finance and ICT be accepted. Thank you. Right, do we have a seconder for that motion? Yeah, thanks, Councillor Jones. All in favour? Good, thank you all. Passed unanimously. Right, now having done that, we'll move on to the item 7.2 on the agenda, which is at page 17 in our notes, and it is the matter as to the monthly financial report, including the third quarter review. Now, you will recall that we did, in fact, vote at the last meeting to lay this matter on the table until this meeting, and the information provided there is Council's position at 30 April 2020 now, and this includes a review of the 1920 budget undertaken at 30 April 2020. So the amended operational budget results in a net operating deficit of $3,669,388, and changes to the capital budget resulted in an increase of $198,682, bringing the total available budget up to $37,405,240. It is the officer's recommendation that in accordance with section 204 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the monthly financial report, including capital works, road maintenance expenditure and works for Queensland as at 30 April 2020 be received and noted, and that in accordance with section 173 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the revised 2019-2020 operational and capital finance budgets be adopted.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, can we have those as two separate resolutions?
Yes, indeed. So we'll attend to the first resolution in relation to accepting the monthly financial report for the month of April. Do we have a mover for that motion? Thank you, Councillor Potter. A seconder. Thank you, Councillor Roloff. All in favour? Passed unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 2 is that in accordance with section 173, the revised 1920 operation and capital finance budgets be adopted. Do we have a mover for that? Thank you, Councillor Jones. Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Henshin. All in favour? Motion passed. Thank you, councillors. Okay, so we'll now move on to item 7.3, sundry debtors write-off at 128. So a significant amount of work has been undertaken by the finance team in dealing with this matter, and I just want to précis the matter by making it clear that these debtor accounts have been outstanding for more than 6 years in many cases, in the majority of cases, and have been assessed as uncollectible after all efforts and avenues to collect have been exhausted. There is a listing of council's outstanding debtors identified as uncollectible, and the officer's recommendation is that council approve the write-off of the outstanding debtor accounts that have been assessed as uncollectible, totalling $158,740.78 as follows. Sundry debtors, $35,423.16. Trade waste, $1,010. Property by law enforcement, $3,407.29. And infringements of $118,900.33. Okay, so as I said, the council officer's recommendation is that council approve the write-off. Do we have a mover for that motion? Yes, we'll need to move. Do we have someone prepared to move the motion on that? Thank you, Councillor Potter. Seconded by Councillor Jones. Okay, I now invite councillors to speak to the matter. Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I really do appreciate the time. Thank you, GM Suze, walking us through the quarterly report and the workshop that was undertaken before this meeting. And I know we've had a lot of discussion around debt, so I'm very mindful of that. I just, you know, I'm really mindful that we are a business, and I just want to know, in terms of these debtors that we're writing off, is there a process by which, you know, they become bad debtors as such, where we don't no longer extend credit to them, particularly around some of these wastes and the day-to-day operations of council? That can we red flag, you have to pay before you access our services? I'm just curious about that, CEO Mark.
Happy to, without going into detail, and happy to bring you back the actual procedure, but yes, there is a process for that. Some of the smaller ones, cash payments or tips and things like that, it's very general, so we don't get into the privacy side of things, but short end, yes, there is a process for that. We do try every avenue to work with the debtor in the first instance, so that we work with people rather than use the big stick approach in the first instance, but it has been known to happen, yes.
Yes, thank you, CEO Mark. And I think it's important to note here too that these are very old debtors, and that in many cases we're actually outside the statute of limitations. So many of these outstanding debts go back more than 6 years, and the statute is such that we can't actually act to recover anything after 6 years. There's also a significant component of these that have gone off to SPUR, to the State Government Recovery Agency. So the total there is $118,900.33. So now that debt's actually moved to SPUR, it's no longer recoverable by council. It will now sit on the books of SPUR as a debt that they would then recover. So effectively what we're doing is really just dealing with the fact this has been made provision for in the books of account. So there was provision for these debts, and we're now effectively just attending to it by writing them off. Now, should we recover some income from SPUR as a result of their processes, that will then come back in revenue in time to come. Are there any other councillors who'd like to speak for or against, or comment in relation to the motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Just following on from Councillor Shoemaker and all that, and your comments, the 118,000 will go across the SPURs, and what percentage we get back through SPURs, we don't know. But I guess this is the community will see this as another bad failing on council, but this council has taken the steps to try and start afresh. I guess we've tried every avenue to try and recoup these debts, which has exhausted a lot of time and effort by the staff, but unfortunately hasn't been successful. But like I said, 118,000 will go across the SPURs, and who knows, in a perfect world we get it all back, but if we get a percentage of it back, it will certainly help us moving forward. But it's just one of those things. It's a legacy item that's gone back 6 years or more, and this council's taken the step to clean the slate and try and move forward in a positive way. So there's no real good spin on this. It's just a thing that you've got to cop on the chin and try and do the best you can with the results that we've got.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Do we have any other councillors wishing to speak to the matter at this stage? Okay.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I agree with what has been said. It's unfortunate to have to write these amounts off. I think in the past, councillors probably had more of a softly approach, and I think this council is going to toughen up. We're going to not, let these debts run on like we were inclined to in the past, because, just assuming that they would be paid, or now we're going down a different process. I think probably in the past we probably haven't resourced it enough either, and now we're saying enough is enough, and we're not. This new council is in a mood for it. Just because we're a council doesn't mean that we can be taken, for a ride. That we are a business, and we have to make sure that we are accountable to our ratepayers, and that we toughen up and make sure that if someone owes us money, that we actually follow right through and get that happening. It doesn't matter if it's a small amount or a large amount, we still have to follow through. And so I'm really keen to finalise this and hopefully draw a line in the sand, and into the future we don't have these legacy issues of large amounts of money that into the future we don't have that, and we just can, like I say, draw a line in the sand and hopefully move forward with a better, a more positive way, and with a better debt collection policy. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Duff. And it is important to reiterate that we have put more resources into debt collection. The staff in that area do now work extremely diligently to make sure that every single cent to which the council, the people's money, is attended to, is actioned promptly and in accordance with council policy. But this is a legacy issue. It does go back 6 years. It's another matter this council is dealing with, and I would support what all councillors have said in terms of dealing with it, getting it off the books, getting it across to Spurs. It's time for that to happen, and then we can move forward, making sure that the future Council of Operations is such that we will ensure that our debt policy is enforced in a timely and efficient manner. That's the commitment, obviously, we'll give to the community. Okay, all in favour of the motion? Thank you. Resolution passed unanimously. Thank you all. Moving on now to item 7.4 on the agenda at 1:32. The matter is as to the disposal of assets, the policy review scheduled for May 2020, and Section 104 of the Local Government Act requires that Council must have suitable financial management systems with regard to sound contracting principles when entering into a contract for the disposal of assets. As per this system, the attached disposal of assets policy has been reviewed and prepared for council consideration. So the disposal of assets policy aims to provide the framework for the effective and efficient disposal of council-owned current, non-current and portable and attractive assets, to ensure the process is open and transparent and is carried out in accordance with the Local Government Regulation 2012, Chapter 6, Part 3, Default Contracting Procedures, and the Local Government Act 2009, Chapter 4, Section 104, Sound Contracting Principles. I just want to touch on the report here before we go to the officer's recommendation, if I can. And the report states that assets that are no longer needed by council should be disposed of promptly. The disposal must achieve best value for money so that council obtains the best possible return for the assets it sells. In addition to price, the disposal must include consideration of council's social, economic and environmental objectives stated in its corporate plan. The policy establishes appropriate guidelines for the disposal of all council-owned assets considered to be surplus to requirement or otherwise redundant. This policy specifically excludes the sale of land for arrears of rates and charges, or sale of services, or the sale of any item detailed on council's register of fees and charges, and any of council's commercial operations, such as our visitor information centre, and our tourist parks. And the officer's recommendation as such is that the South Bennett Regional Council adopt the draft disposal of assets policy as outlined in the attachment to this report. Do we have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Froloff. A seconder? Thank you, Councillor Potter. I'll now invite the chamber to speak to the matter. Do we have any councillors who wish to speak? Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mayor Otto. I know when we workshopped this, we discussed there's a number of items that actually post-COVID council will look to dispose of, which I think is a great opportunity to raise some revenue from these items, particularly the items like water meters and things that we've discussed. I believe Councillor Froloff are of quite a value. So I think the framework's really suitable. It's fair and transparent, and it does encourage effective competition. And I would definitely encourage council post-COVID to enter into arrangements to get rid of the assets we have and see what kind of money we can create from them.
Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. Other councillors? Okay, we'll put the motion to vote now. All those in favour? Those against? Voted unanimously. Thank you all. Okay, we're now moving on to item 7.5 on today's agenda, which is in relation to the minutes of the Audit Advisory Committee meeting held on the Thursday, the 27th of February. That's at 1:42. And the copy of the minutes of the Audit Advisory Committee meeting held at the South Bennett Regional Council Chambers on Thursday, 27 February 2020 are included. And the officer's recommendation is that Council receive the attached minutes of the Audit Advisory Committee meeting held on Thursday, 27 February 2020. Do we have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Jones. A seconder? Thank you, Councillor Duff. Does any councillor wish to speak to the matter? If not, those in favour? Thank you all. Resolution passed unanimously. Item 7.6 on the agenda is at 1:50. We're recommending the date, time and location for the special budget meeting of Council. Council's annual budget is required to be adopted in accordance with the Local Government Act of 2009 and the Local Government Regulation of 2012. Therefore, it is necessary for Council to confirm the date, time and location of the special budget meeting to ensure compliance. It is the officer's recommendation that the special budget meeting of Council be held on Wednesday, 1 July 2020 in the Warren Trust Chamber, Glendon Street, Kingaroy, commencing at 9 a.m. Do we have a mover for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Potter. A seconder? Thank you, Councillor Henshin. Does any councillor wish to speak to the motion?
I don't understand the rush in terms of putting our budget through for a meeting on 1st of July, and I would like to propose we give this council as much time as we possibly can, because I'm really mindful of the $37.9 million deficit that we have. $37.9 million worth of borrowings, the revaluation of assets, the deficit by depreciation, and the backlog we have. And I just really want to ensure that we're setting, I know COVID-19 has really changed the operating environment for a number of councils and across our community, and I would just like to see considered time and effort in terms of really looking carefully at that budget and making sure we are making decisions that ensure service levels are suitable. And yes, I just want to ensure we're allocating the resources that we have carefully, because we simply don't have enough.
Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. Councillor Jones.
Yes, Mr Mayor, just in response to the councillor's comments, I totally agree that we have a very difficult budget moving forward. This one in particular, a little bit different to others that we've done in the past and probably in the future with the COVID-19 and the certain effect it's had on our region. I agree that, yes, we don't want to rush these decisions, but as a council with the state government and all that sort of stuff, I think we could set the 1st of July, knowing that we have the option in the June meeting, if we're struggling to, or we have any doubts that we can't make a sensible budget without being rushed, or the feeling of being rushed on the 1st of July, we have that option on the June normal meeting to adjust that and put it back a couple of weeks. So as it sits on the 1st of July, that's our target, but obviously we have that option of moving in the June meeting, that we, if we feel as if we're being pushed for time and whatever else, and councillors do feel uncomfortable about making a decision, we have that option to move it back to that extra couple of weeks to give us some more time. So just to ask for a response from the CEO there.
Thanks, councillors. The reason the recommendation, I'll go back to a couple of steps. The reason the recommendation is here today, just because we didn't adopt it with the general meeting schedule, so just chasing some sort of certainty as to what time limit we are looking at. Council needs to adopt a budget by the end of July. Otherwise, if it goes into any later than that, generally you get ministerial exemption, or if the minister would offer it. I think we're all in agreement that we would really prefer not to get any form of exemption and produce a budget. Would to totally and wholeheartedly agree. All the plans we're throwing out, it's not to sound like we're blaming COVID at all, actually not at all, but COVID has certainly had an impact on our operations and our business, as with any business within the region, particularly in the revenue stream. So the revenue streams have been directly affected by this pandemic. And then council's response to it with last meeting with the freezing of the fees and charges, and again, loss of revenue, future revenue opportunities through that freezing of fees and charges. Now this maybe there has been some discussion. We have the general meeting on the 15th of July, which is a fortnight later. Changes to the legislation this year have removed the terminology of the mayor's budget. We've not done that ever. It's always been a full council preparation of budget going forward, and we're continuing with the full council. And certainly when you deliver a budget as an officer, you really would like the councillors to have the full and comprehensive understanding of what's in the document. That's I think, a basic and absolutely essential. The restriction appears to be removed with actually having to produce the full budget a fortnight prior to its tabling. That was part of the previous mayor's budget proposal, and certainly Councillor Jones is right. Both councils are right in the fact that we have the June General, we can adapt and change the budget meeting. But if council was to, without sounding like this is a bit of a compromise, but if council was to have the formal meeting at the July General on the 15th, our target would be still to actually comply with the old process of having the budget 2 weeks. So we would have the budget finished anyway by the 1st of July. So councillors would have it for a fortnight prior to the July General. So we would be looking then over that 2-week period, you would have the full set of, as is good practice, you would have the full set of documents so that you've got that, and questions can be, well, not easily answered, but can be answered on the day, or if there's a typo or any one of a dozen things that can happen with the preparation of the budget. So if council, it's totally council's decision off the floor, 1st of July, 15th of July, what date you pick. But if you were to go for the formal adoption of the budget on the 15th of July, the organisation can adapt in capital and other works programs for that period. We would then aim to have a copy of the budget handed to the councillors for consideration on the 1st of July, with formal consideration on the 15th. Just a thought.
Yes, thank you, CEO Mark. We'd appreciate that. Councillor Duff?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just thinking then, and I agree with exactly what you've said and what the other councillors have said. Is it then an option to move an amendment that we have it on the 15th of July? That gives Councillor Shoemaker and the new councillors in particular more time. It also gives us that, like you said, we'd have it finished by the 1st of July, but you'd have that fortnight to have a really good look at it. And I think there's a whole heap of things that are at stake here, and particularly as we have a new council, and it's all happens very quickly, and I think we need as much time as we can possibly get to go through it, and particularly when you see what's happened with the third quarter and the changes, you know, that the COVID-19 have affected our budget. So we've got a lot of work to do, and I just think it's a good opportunity if we can still stick within the requirements, and everybody can still move on without holding any of the council staff up. If that's a good compromise, I'd like to suggest that be our amended motion. Thank you.
Mr. CEO, we accept that as an amendment to the motion. Do we have a seconder for that? Yes. Thank you, Councillor Jones. I'll now invite the chamber to speak to that motion. Thank you, Councillor Jones.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just in response to that, I totally agree. I don't have an issue with the 15th. We're in that amendment to the motion. We're still striving for a 1st of July completion of the budget, and it'll have 2 weeks to peruse. So I'm more than happy with that. So we're still setting that 1st of July target, and that's where we should be aiming. And then we have a 2-week period, as the CEO and Councillor Duff has suggested. So I fully support that, and we still operate on the 1st of July with a 2-week perusal. I think that's a great idea. So more than happy with that, and that's probably what I was trying to say in that first statement. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Jones, and thank you, CEO Mark and staff, for offering that compromise in terms of that. It'll give us more time as we need. Can I just say that, as councillors have today pointed out, that it is very important that this budget is particularly responsible and sustainable in a time where COVID-19 is impacting on our community. It's impacting on the earning potential of our residents. It's impacting on industry, and of course, let's not forget that we still do have an ongoing drought that our rural producers are well and truly in the grips of, and is only going to get worse, it would seem, over the coming winter season. And that being the case, we do have a lot of work to do. And I'm sure that we will all be working long hours diligently with the general managers to make sure that we do deliver a responsible budget. Having that extra time will enable us to make sure that we commit that time to coming up with the best outcome we possibly can for the people of the region over the next 12 months. Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, I agree, and it does definitely set the tone for the operations moving forward. So I do understand it's a really important process for council to undertake, and I certainly appreciate the time and the opportunity to make sure that nothing's left unturned, and that we really understand, each and every one of us, where every dollar is spent, and can talk to our ratepayers, who are the custodians of every cent.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Shoemaker, and I think to the community who will obviously be watching this process carefully, we do have, I can assure you, you have a council here who are very committed to making sure that we put in the necessary hard yards, that we work through the detail of the budget to make sure that both the OPEX budget, the operating expenditure budget, as well as the CapEx, the capital expenditure budget, is going to be most appropriately designed to ensure that it's in the community's best interest over the next 12 months with the funds that we have available to us. We'll also obviously be working to make sure that our rating strategy is appropriate for the community based on the environment we find ourselves in at this point in time. Do we have any other councillors who'd like to speak to the motion at this point in time? Thank you, Councillor Henson.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and councillors, I'd just like to reiterate there's so much negativity, and yes, we do have to concentrate on this budget. COVID's not over, so we don't know where that's going. That's fairly important. And the drought's not over, as you touched on, Mr. Mayor. We're going into winter, and there's some serious uncertain times ahead of us. Now, we are here to work for the people of the South Burnett, of course, and do the best that we possibly can. We've been dealt some pretty ordinary cards with COVID, but we've got to work around that. Unknown, uncharted waters, so how we go about that is in the hands of us, and taking our time, but diligently with GMs in every department to come up with the best option. Now, how long is long enough, we don't know, but whatever we do, we've got to seriously work diligently with the best interests of the South Burnett in mind. So, yes, there's been a lot of discussion about our budget, and that's going to take some getting right. And will we get it right? Not for everybody. We are not going to get that right for everybody. So as a team, we will do our best, and I'm sure over the next 6 to 8 weeks, which we've got to work with within this budget and many other things within council, to do the best of our ability to get this right. But as I say, COVID's not over, and the drought's not over either. So we've got to be very, very mindful of that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Henson. Some very pertinent observations there in relation to the current climate in which we find ourselves in, and we all understand, the community, that not everyone will get in the budget what they would hope to, We are chartered with the responsibility as custodians of the money that is the money of the South Bennett people to come up with the best balance we can in terms of making sure that we're managing council's assets in a responsible and sustainable manner. Thank you all. All those in favour of the motion that the meeting be held on the 15th of July, 9 a.m.
The
amendment, sorry.
The amendment, we'll do the amendment first.
Yeah, sorry, can I just say that so we're now voting on the amendment that special, moved by Councillor Duff and seconded by Councillor Jones, that the special budget meeting of council be held on Wednesday, 15 July 2020. I would suggest at 9 a.m. We do that at the start in the Warren Trust Chamber, Glennon Street, Kingaroy. Yes, sorry, commencing at 9 a.m. All those in favour? Thank you. Resolution passed unanimously.
So the amendment now becomes the motion.
So the amendment now becomes the motion.
Now we vote on the motion, which would be for the 15th of July.
Right. Yep. Okay, so we now vote on acceptance of that motion. Okay, all those in favour? Thank you. Acceptance of the motion has been passed unanimously. Thank you all. Thank you, CEO Mark. We'll now move on to item 7.7 on the agenda, which is the media relations policy at 152 in councillors' notes. And the Local Government Act 2009 provides a regulatory framework for the adoption and enforcement of a media relations policy. And council's policies are regularly reviewed to deliver transparent, effective processes and good governance of and by local government. I should note here that, by the way, for those who aren't aware, all council policies are published, once approved, are published on the council's website and are available for public viewing. The officer's recommendation is that the South Bennett Regional Council adopt the draft media relations policy as outlined in the attachment to this report.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, we had a couple of late questions on this one, and so it would be opportune just to answer those questions in full so that people are comfortable with it. So if council was in the mind just a procedural resolution to leave it lay on the table till July, we'll concentrate on the budget and then we'll come back to this one then.
Yes, Councillor Duff.
Yes, so I would like to move that procedural motion that we leave this lay on the table. I think that it's not, I checked with, as the CEO said, it's not, we don't need to have it done urgently. I think that with the new council, we need to get this right. We're talking about open and transparency, and the media is a great way to get our message out. We've got a lot of good news stories that happen, and I think that we can work on this media relations policy to ensure that more, and even if we have to resource it and put more finances into the media side of it, but we need to make sure that what we're doing is open and transparent, and that we're getting our messages out there. And both the good and the bad news needs to be circulated. Everyone needs to know why we make our decisions. The more we can get the media right, the better. And so I really, really think that this is a very, very important policy, and I'd like to leave it lay on the table until we have more time to go through it with a fine-tooth comb and ensure that what is in that policy is what we want to deliver to our community. Thank you.
I'll just clarify too in relation to the procedural motion that item 22.2 of council's conduct of council and meetings policy, such that we can adjourn such for up to 2 months, but for no longer. Well, thank you, Councillor Duff. Do we have a seconder for the procedural motion? Thank you, Councillor Jones. So, Councillor Duff, just to clarify, we're looking to lay the matter on the table and in such adjourn until the July ordinary meeting, and that's the procedural motion. Is everyone clear on that? Okay, all in favour? Okay, thank you very much. The procedural motion has been carried unanimously. Item 7.8 is at 157 and is in relation to the corporate and community plan review So in summary, on 14 December 2011, Council adopted the South Bennett Community Plan 2032, Working Together for Our Future. The plan was developed in line with legislative requirements at the time. However, councils are no longer legislatively required to develop or maintain a community plan as part of operational and strategic planning. Whilst the plan does not specifically link to Council's current strategic planning suite, Council still uses the plan as a reference. On 21 March 2018, Council adopted the Corporate Plan 2018/19 to 2022-23. The Corporate Plan outlines Council's goals and strategies, providing Council with the direction for the next 5 financial years. It is now timely to review both plans, and the officer's recommendation is that a review of Council's corporate and community plans be undertaken in the 2020/21, so that's the upcoming financial year. And any review of these corporate documents, of course, need to be considered in both the operational plan and the budget for the 2021 financial year. So the recommendation again is that a review of Council's corporate and community plans be undertaken in the 2020/21 financial year. Do we have a mover for that? Thank you, Councillor Duff. A seconder. Thank you, Councillor Froloff. Those wishing to speak for or against the motion? Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker.
I just wanted to comment that I'm really excited about this process going forward with our existing new council. I think it's a great opportunity to set the tone for the next 4 years and look ahead in terms of what we want to achieve for the future of the South Burnett together. I really do think the community engagement policy is a really important tool and framework in terms of how we go ahead with our corporate planning process. And I'd just like to suggest, in terms of reviewing that media relations policy, that the community engagement policy is equally reviewed so that we're prepared and very aware of how we're going to go about community engagement in terms of preparing our corporate plan looking forward, because I think we've got a wealth of knowledge and experience across the region, and I really want to maximise every opportunity, every conversation that we have with the people of our region to really make sure that we're setting a corporate plan that is owned by the people and definitely has some practical and tangible, achievable milestones looking ahead. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. Councillor Duff.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to endorse what Councillor Shoemaker has said, and I was part of when it was legislation to have a community plan, and I just thought it was fantastic. We went out, we engaged it to the whole region, every corner of the region was engaged, rural right through. I just thought it was a wonderful process, and I'm glad that we are taking that on board because we've used that plan a lot, and it can feed into the corporate plan, and I just think that we need to take our community with us in these processes, and then the community, we need to be a team as councillors, but also a team with our community, so that the community feels like they take some ownership of the decisions that we make. And I think that that's perfect governance, and so I'm really pleased and as Councillor Shoemaker said, excited about this process going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duff. And I think it's relevant to read some of the commentary in the report provided by our CEO, and that is that achieving, if I can do so, achieving on a community vision will require a united effort, and Council wishes to invite the whole community to work with us towards bringing our vision to life. The plan will inform all Council strategic planning documents, including the corporate plan, the annual operational plan, and the budget. So the plan will be seen, it's important that the plan will be seen to be a living document and designed to change, to reflect community changes throughout the life of the plan. Any further comments in relation to the resolution? Okay, if not, we'll put the resolution to the floor. Those in favour? The resolution has been passed unanimously. Thank you all.
Complete. Too late.
Oh, sorry. microphone, the appointment of directors to the Board of Directors of South Bennett Community Hospital Foundation Limited. So just a little bit of background on this, that nominations were called for the director positions on the Board of Directors of the South Bennett Community Hospital Foundation in accordance with the company's constitution, and that the foundation is now renewing its board to continue to concentrate on the charitable activities and through these the support for the Lady Bajelki Peterson Community Hospital. Prospective nominees completed the call for nominations document, which detailed director qualifications, responsibilities and the general skill matrix sought, and nominees also complete the nomination form and the ACNC, Responsible Entity Declaration form, as well as supporting a covering letter addressing the skills matrix and a CV detailing their suitability, qualifications and experience relevant to the role of a director. So effectively, Council, being the sole member of the company, resolved at a meeting on 17 April 2019 for the company to modify its constitution by deleting clause 4.12 and inserting that the Council shall appoint 9 directors, one of whom must be an employee of the Council, and that nominations be called for the director positions. So it's the officer's recommendation, thank you, Mr. CEO, that Council appoint the following people to the board of the South Bennett Community Hospital Foundation: Mr. Wayne Kratzman, Mrs. Danita Potter, Ms. Sheena Lindholm, Ms. Helen Roth, Mrs. Karen Bajelki Peterson, and Mrs. Kirsty Shoemaker. And I might just now ask for a comment from our CEO. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just before we go any further, the 2 councillors in the room are being nominated and have been nominated as community representatives, and actually it was one I missed at the beginning of the meeting too. Whilst it's not a real conflict because the position is totally voluntary and there is no remuneration or expenses or anything paid to board director members, there may be a perceived conflict, and probably to us the 2. We have quorum if you step out.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
yes, no, yeah.
Thank you,
My
CEO Mark,
apologies,
and thank you, councillors Shoemaker and Potter, who've now left the meeting, so that we can consider the matter at hand. Councillor Duff, can I just have the motion?
Yep,
for
if you
discussion?
want to, yes, please, and then I'm happy, if you would like me, I can talk to it quite happily.
Yes. So first of all, do we have a mover for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Duff. A seconder? Thank you, Councillor Henshin. Now I'll ask CEO Mark if you could speak to the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So council appointed me on my arrival in 2018. So I actually am council's shareholder representative and also company secretary. So the board has been in place since without going back to the history. So we took the opportunity with the previous board members the last year to renew the constitution. It did have specific parties that were to be to members of the board, doctors, councillors, different things. The board is a charitable foundation and its purpose is to support the health services within the regions. It's totally 100% owned by council, as you said, and council is a single shareholder. And again, to repeat, I am council's representative to that board and hold the position of company secretary. So in that, holding the position of company secretary as direct appointment by council and the board, there is no conflict for me because I represent council interests. So for those who are wondering why I'm still here. So this is an opportunity. COVID, with a range of things this year, it sounds like an old broken record. We renewed the board. We were going to have this report would have came to the March meeting. With what happened with the current circumstances this year, it's been put on hiatus until now till the restrictions are starting to ease. We'll get the board members together. We still have 2 vacancies which we will fill in due course in consultation with the board. But we've got enough now. The board will elect a chair again. The previous chair was Wayne Kratzman as the previous mayor as well. But again, Wayne is on there as a community member. And very much looking forward to getting the board up and running and getting support for the hospital, particularly the private hospital, but all health services within the region.
Thank you, CEO Mark. And can I just confirm what our CEO has explained, and that is that the appointment of CEO Mark is as the employee, council employee, correct? And that the appointment of Mrs. Kirsty Shoemaker and Mrs. Danita Potter would be as representatives of the community, as volunteers from the community, not as representatives of council as such. We do, if the resolution is passed, that will give us a total of 7 directors. As our CEO has pointed out, that would then leave 2 vacancies to be filled at a future time. Councillor Duff?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just want to ask a couple of questions. I'm really excited about the actual board structure so far, because there's Miss Helen Roth is out on a rural property, so it's good to have diverse views on the particular this particular board. And the sole purpose, as you pointed out, is probably, I'm guessing, fundraising would be pretty much the purpose of the board, to fundraise. That's the first question.
Correct, as well as support health services, but it's a fundraise and support health services. Yep.
And the second question is, how does the board, is the board going to feed back to council? Are the minutes of the meetings going to come to the council? Sorry?
Oh, no, yep, sorry,
Yeah,
you go,
okay.
Mo.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's the question.
The minutes get, again, returning councillors would be aware, but for the new councillors, so I'll only speak for my 2 years here, but each time the board has a meeting, the minutes are generally presented to council in the closed session, because they do carry sometimes commercial information, as well as other sensitive with health industry and privacy. So, but yes, the minutes are brought back to council. So once meeting's held, minutes are endorsed by the board as a true and correct record. It's the true and correct record copy that comes back to council, formal adoption by resolution.
More questions, sorry. So the money that is raised through fundraising, does that money then get used by the, who decides how that money is spent?
The board.
And so that can be for capital upgrades to the hospital, or it can be so the board makes those decisions?
The board has made those decisions. The board's, with the renewal of the board over this last year, we've worked very close. Actually, I'm very pleased to report. So Public Health Network, Darling Downs Health Board, Lady Bajoki Peterson, and the licensee holders down there, South Bank Medical, have all worked we've got probably the best relationship between the parties that we've had for a long time. Not to say that it was previously bad, but we've got everyone sort of looking for the betterment of health services in the region, and it's built out into a couple of other committees over periods of time. So the board has been not active in the fundraising, as you would be aware, for probably the last 12, 18 months, quite extensively. So the board is looking, part of the discussions that the previous board had, and the previous board pretty much voted itself out as far as the opportunity and time for renewal, and to concentrate on the charitable focus office and the fundraising. So that will be certainly the focus of the board. The board owns about $300,000 worth of assets, and currently within the hospital, machinery, equipment. Those assets in the board report is consolidated into the council. The council end of year audited consolidated report carries, because it's a totally held entity of council, is fed back into our statements. The board makes the decision on where it wants to go. It also has a property relationship with council, as it does with the provider at the hospital. Those assets we're looking at, in part of this year's budget, is what to do with the board's assets, and the board will most likely divest itself of its assets, and those assets, at this point in time, we're looking at actually transferring them back to council as the owner of all the assets in the facility, so it consolidates the asset base in one spot. Then it would be a discussion with both the provider at the hospital, because they're the medical experts as to what services they need. We have our own facilities section that looks at the building itself. The building is an aged building, and will need future capital works going forward. So where and how and what that looks like and where that's funded from is a discussion yet to be had. But the board will make the decisions on the money it raises, and then it will consult back to council, as it will with the provider at the hospital.
Thank you, CEO Mark. Councillor Joe.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this one raises some concerns with me, and it has done for quite a while. The health services are a very, very important part to this region. We have an ageing population, and I know how important it is. But I would love to see us really drill down and try and, we're getting a brand new facility getting built just up the road here, the Kingaroy Hospital. I would love, and I guess that comes back on us as a council, I would really like to see us lobby and try and get the private hospital and the facilities down here taken up, and all the hospital and medical facilities in the one place. That's a perfect world. This building down here, as the CEO has referred to, is a ageing facility, and it's going to take money to keep it up to standard and all that sort of stuff. And I made a statement way back when Wayne Kratzman secured money from Gina Reinhardt. I said that I would be in the facility until that money was had run out, because it is an enormous cost to the ratepayer, an enormous cost to the council, huge expenditure going forward, and you can't hide behind that to keep that building up to standard for a hospital. I'm happy with the board members and all that sort of stuff. As Councillor Duff said, it looks like it's got a good makeup and a pretty good positive feel to it. But yeah, look, I don't want to be taken the wrong way. I fully understand that we need hospital and medical facilities, but I think we really need to work hard to try and get some sort of an investment, a private investor or something, to build maybe build something up there close to the hospital and get some medical facilities in there. I'd love to see all the medical facilities, private and public, all in the one place. So yeah, this is just an ongoing thing, and as Councillor Duff raised the issue, this board is responsible for raising funds, and I don't want to sound too negative, but the last board up until now wasn't too successful in that field, so I hope this one changes.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Jones. And if I can just say, in support of what Councillor Jones has said, it does make a lot of sense to have all of those health services within the one precinct, particularly in light of the fact that the building, as our CEO has pointed out, is in significant, well, it's at a point where it's going to need a lot of expenditure to repair it or looking at replacing it. The other thing, of course, is that we do have, I think, a gap in the provision of allied health services in our community. That's been brought to our attention by people in the health sector and across a range of areas, be it psychologists, occupational therapists, etc. I know it is an issue that we will need to consider as a community moving forward. It would seem appropriate to have those services, geographically placed, as Councillor Jones has said, within proximity of the hospital. We yet to see what services will come from Queensland Health through the hospital for those allied services, but certainly serious consideration of the location and the composition of the asset moving forward will be an important issue that we need to think very, very, give a lot of careful consideration to. Councillor Jones, Councillor Duff, sorry.
I didn't have my microphone on, but I'm good. I am very sympathetic towards the community hospital. I think that it has a place, whether it be where it is or somewhere else, but I certainly think there's a lot of gaps in our region for medical specialists to come to our region, and I know that the Mergen Family Medical Practice relies heavily on this community hospital for specialists, visiting specialists, so it certainly has a role to play, and I'm really, really keen to see this board actually have a focus, because I think the last time the board was, there wasn't really a charter. They weren't 100% sure like there was doctors on there, but fundraising is not what doctors would do. So I just think if going forward, if it's about fundraising, well, then everyone who sits on that board knows what they're there for, and we can get some serious dollars happening. I think that's a good way forward. So yeah, just keen to support the community hospital in whatever location into the future. But yeah, a big supporter of it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Duff. I saw you had your microphone on earlier, but anyway, I jumped in on you there. But look, I think the other thing is too here that I've certainly heard a lot of word in the community from elderly people particularly, as well as disabled people who are sharing the challenges that come with having to travel to the city for specialist services. And that is something that is really important, I think, for a lot of people in our community, is that we can start to provide those specialist services locally for them over time. And we do have to look carefully at how we best do that and make sure that, but that's certainly on the agenda moving forward.
Mr. Mayor, if
yes,
I
thank
just,
you.
or may I add one more thing, just for councillors' information, it's not part of the formal resolution, but the entity, the board, the foundation, as planning had planned, as I said, in March, the best laid plans of mice and men, to actually hold a function to thank the previous board and welcome the new board and then launch a couple of new initiatives. That still will be, and certainly that acknowledgement and thanks to the previous board for their service will be conducted as soon as we're able to organise an event again like that.
Thank you very much, CEO Mark. Councillor Jones?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just briefly, I just want to respond. I totally agree with everything, and for not 1 second I was saying that it doesn't have a right in this community. We need that hospital, but I just think if we had a new building, for the benefit of the ratepayer across this region, so their funds, their rates aren't propping up infrastructure that's ageing, we get a brand new building, and this is in a perfect world, don't get me wrong, brand new building up at the hospital, private and public all working together, less maintenance, less cost to the ratepayer and all that. That's all I was suggesting. We need to really be committed. I think we missed a golden opportunity, $60 million public hospital getting built up there, and we didn't lobby. I'm not going to say lobby hard enough, but we just missed a golden opportunity to put another $5 or $10 million on there, to have private suites and all that up there, and that hospital to work together, private and public. But that's something for us to address in the future. I just think for the ratepayer, it would be a wonderful thing to see that community hospital placed up there with the other public hospital working in conjunction. It would just be a win-win for everybody. That's what I was suggesting.
Thank you, Councillor Jones, and I don't think there'd be too many people in the community who disagree with you there at all. Okay, well, we have the motion as it stands that council appoint the people mentioned to the board of the South Burnett Community Hospital Foundation. All those in favour? Thank you all. The motion has been carried unanimously, which 5 votes to 0. Thank you, Councillor Froloff. We'll now welcome Councillors Shoemaker and Potter back to the meeting. Moving on, and could I suggest that it is just gone past morning tea time, but for the sake of efficiency with the meeting, that Councillor Jones, are you happy to present the Roads and Drainage Portfolio Report? And could I then suggest that we break for morning tea before going into item 8.2, which is the Alfred Street car park? I won't return from morning tea until such time as that matter's been dealt with. Mr. Chair, can I just ask before Councillor Jones speaks to roads, do we need a resolution to adjourn the meeting for morning tea, or what do we normally do there?
Yes, please.
Good, thank you. Okay, well, I'll now call on Councillor Jones to item 8.1 to speak to the Roads and Drainage Portfolio Report. Thank you, Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and again, great pleasure in presenting the Roads and Drainage Portfolio for the month of May. And currently works in progress or completed, the construction or capital works. We have Brisbane Street in Nanango that has been completed and has been a very successful added infrastructure job there, going up to the hospital. Bowyard Creek out at on Iron Pot Road there, out in that vicinity, and I believe that Councillor Hanchin's had some good feedback on that one. The Mergen CBD, the footpath upgrade in Lamb Street, that just continues to grow. Positive stories coming out of there everywhere. The people are very happy, and I think once that job is completed and all the barricades and all that are taken away to see the completed job, it will be an absolute fantastic improvement for the central business district of Mergen. The Coolabunnya bus parking, that was another job that has been completed out here. I drive past there quite regularly. That's a massive improvement for the parents and the children and all that sort of stuff out there at Coolabunnya bus. I was talking to our engineer, Mr. James Darcy, yesterday, and we've got some projects coming up. Hopefully we'll be able to do something in Wandai at the school up there. That was an issue with the local police and the principal up there. And there's also more funding coming for those projects, the St Mary's and all that sort of stuff up there. We're trying to get the upgrades to the pedestrian crossings and all that sort of area as well. So there's some good news stories coming out of the funding there for the school zones in particular. Maidenwell Bunny Mountains Road, that job's well and truly underway, and that has been a massive improvement. That was on the really bad corner there at Wengenville intersection. It was a 90-degree turn, and it was quite dangerous. And now it's up to myself and the General Manager of Infrastructure, Aaron, to go down and try and get the rest of the money to finish off that little section of about 1.2, 1.4 k's up to the Bunya Mountains. Old Esk Road down at Blackbutt, also well underway. That job is certainly receiving rave reviews down there. The people that live and travel on that road can't speak highly enough, so that's another good story, good news story. In Haley Street in Wandai, the construction of the new concrete footpath. Also, I think Councillor Henson has been well received down there. We had a Bridgeton Hayware, and I think we're starting to hook that up, so things are looking well. The gravel resheeting, heavy formation grade, gained to Highsville Road, Robin Lee Road, Means Road, Burt Road, Mustons, Mondure Crossing Road, Morgans Road, Kangaroo Yard, Flats Road and Old Esk North Road. They're all underway. Through that March-May period, we've also got patrol grading. You've got Burnett, Chipinga, Chelmsford, Dangle, Fix Crossing, Fairdale, Greenview, Cumbia, Maidenwell, Manium, Newmga, Pimpinbungie and Wandai. The road slashing is just an enormous list there. The list goes on. Summary of some of the completed works through April. The gravel resheeting, heavy formation, Old Wandai Road, Iron Pot Road, Couchmans Road, Hoggs Road and Bridget and Carroll Road, all been completed. The patrol grading, Barkers Creek, Flat Buoy, Brooklands, Geelong, Eastern Ango, Fix Crossing, Glenrock, Highsville, and the list goes on right through, right across the whole region. And the roadside slashing, also another long list of slashing projects underway. So again, Mr Mayor, it gives me great pleasure. It's a very positive outcome for the roads in particular, where we started from, I guess, four and a bit years ago. The roads are in a hell of a mess, and I guess it's a good time to reflect on the work that was done in the last term, starting a new term of council now. And we worked very hard. I guess we're 12 months into the program. That when we went on our listening tours, we told everybody that this was a program that we wanted to unroll, and I'm very proud of the fact that it's really starting to gain traction now, and the community is starting to see the difference. This year will be the second year. I'm expecting huge improvements. As we've already referred to, the budget, restrictions on spending and all that sort of stuff, the community expectations, is going to be difficult to continue, but I'm sure that we have the capacity to continue the improvement on the roads, and the third year next year will be huge. So we're almost to the completion of where we said we would be. So we have delivered on our promises that we said to the community 2 years ago, and it's all starting to come out. And I can't say any more than we're at the top of the tree with the road or the complaint system by thousands every month. Now we're sitting around about that fourth or fifth below dogs and all sorts of stuff. So that just gives you an indication of the work the staff's done. And again, as I always do, I would like to commend the staff, both internal and external. They're the ones that do the work and need the pat on the back, because we get the gratification and all that sort of stuff, thank you and all that, but those are the people that are responsible. So again, a big congratulations to all staff that have been involved, and they're continuing to do a wonderful job. So I'd like to move that my roads and drainage portfolio for May be accepted.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Do we have a second for that? Thank you, Councillor Duff. In response to Councillor Jones' report and the motion, I would like to say that there has been certainly clearly over the last 2 years a significant amount of work done by Councillor Jones, and acknowledgement of General Manager Meehan and the role he's played in what has been somewhat of a legacy issue, if I can take the liberty of saying that. The people we've just referred to have had to work very hard, clearly, to clean up something that has been a problem for a long time. I'm sure the community out there, you will see that your roads are improving fairly and objectively. You can see that there is a strong program that council over the last 2 years, and I believe the existing council is very committed to that program, and is also supporting the staff as they unroll that program. That program, of course, is very important to the region's economy in terms of not just the sealed roads, and there's a lot of work to do there in years to come, but certainly the focus at the moment in relation to the resheeting program. We've had a lot of good feedback in relation to the quality of work around that resheeting. To see roads like the Bunyas now being connected and the Old Esk Road being brought up to where the community have been asking for it to be. There's some really good positives happening there. Now, I know that not everyone has got their road in the condition they want it to be right now, but rest assured that from the work that we've had explained to us being undertaken in the roads program, it is a work in progress. The roads across the network are on a hierarchy, and General Manager Meehan, with Councillor Jones, I've seen have got a very good plan over the coming, particularly the next 3 years, to continue to roll out that program. And I believe that as a council, we should maintain the commitment to that program moving forward. I've also, of course, heard a lot of positive feedback in support of what Councillor Jones said in relation to the roadside slashing. I don't know that our highways have ever looked so good, to be honest, and I've had long-term residents even share that with me. Around the guideposts have all been, cleaned up with the spraying program, and that was followed by the slashing program. I certainly can't remember the highways looking so good. And also to make everyone aware in the community that as I said throughout the course of the election, that I would be committing to driving across every rural road in the first 12 months of my term. And I'm pleased to say that Councillor Jones has offered to come along with me, and the divisional councillors have also agreed to come along. So that'll be nice for us to get out and get a first-hand understanding of the work that the staff are putting in. So thank you, Councillor Jones. Support everything you say there.
I just want to quickly respond, Mr. Mayor. I do want to say that I'm not saying that our road work is perfect at this stage, but we're getting bloody close to it. And if we do make mistakes, we go back very quickly and try and amend the mistakes that we have made. If we've done a job and someone complains or something, there's people responding very quickly, and we try and fix anything up that we have. But I'm not standing here saying we're perfect by any means, but we are getting very close to the where we want to be.
Yeah, and I can certainly confirm that no one in this chamber, I would suggest, is trying to indicate the community that we have, we are where we want the roads to be. I'm sure General Manager Meehan understands and can explain to us that it is a work in progress. So to the community, this is a work in progress. We know that a lot of you are still wanting work done on your roads. Rest assured, Council has been listening. Our senior management team have been listening. Roads are a priority of Council, will continue to be. And, we're working our way through the program. And if your road's not where you want it to be right now, it will be part of the future program, I'm sure. And we are keen to hear from the community and continue to respond in that way. So certainly want to reiterate what Councillor Jones has said. It's a work in progress. Continue to work with us, and I'm sure that we'll see that road network in a lot better situation in years to come. Thank you. Councillor Henson.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Can I just make it be known to Council and certainly the South Burnett community, there's been a lot of irate ratepayers out there for some time, and 4 years ago roads were right up there, and I can remember sitting in meetings and the comment was made, this is a work in progress and it's going to take time. Well, in my short term as a councillor, I can pass on to our General Manager, Aaron, and Councillor Jones, I have never heard so many positive comments come out of so many negative ratepayers 4 years ago. All of a sudden we've got compliments coming that, oh gee, this road's good, and oh, the slashers are doing a wonderful job. And yes, they won't get it right all the time, or there might be issues still there, but it has come a long way in 4 years, and that needs to be commended to internal and external, and being one of those irate ratepayers 4 years ago, and to see where it's come is an absolute credit. And if we can pursue that for the next 4 years, I can only agree with Councillor Jones, we will have things looking a lot better. So that needs to be noted. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Henson. It's important that you acknowledge that as someone who was once one of those irate ratepayers, and I'm sure you'll continue to monitor the work that Councillor Jones and General Manager Meehan do. But it certainly is important to make the point to the community that we know that there are still roads to be attended to. I can assure you that Councillor Jones and General Manager Meehan are well aware of that. They do have a program, they do have a plan. It doesn't happen overnight. We are only a couple of years into a long-term plan, and that this council will need to, I believe, maintain roads as a priority and continue to allocate, as a commitment, continue to allocate a significant amount of our budget towards rural roads, because They are a significant asset. They make a significant contribution to our economy, and they do provide for an important part of lifestyle. And that I can assure the community that from what we've seen, certainly coming as a new mayor, that is done in a very evidence-based manner. It is based on the hierarchy and a whole range of very, very clear criteria. So the decisions aren't made ad hoc. They are made by our management based on the hierarchy of roads around a whole range of criteria that determine which roads are high priority at certain particular points in time. But rest assured that it is a long-term program. It will take time, but we are continuing to commit to rural roads. And I thank councillors that have been involved so far and look forward to doing so in the future. Thank you, Councillor Jones.
Yeah, just a quick one, Mr Mayor. I forgot to mention, go onto the website if you're worried about your road. It's a quick check on the council website. Go onto the roads and all that sort of stuff. Go through and you'll find if your road's on the program. We still have the 3-month monthly four program, and it gives you a ongoing update on when your road's coming. So it's an easy way to find out. And I just want to thank Councillor Hanchin, and I do believe he's still got a bucket of those pet rocks still sitting at home that he threw on the desk that night out at the meeting.
So thanks, Councillor Jones. It's quite a legendary story in council that Councillor Hanchin was once one of those farmers that came to a meeting listening to her and threw a pile of rocks on a table. And he can now, I think we've all been, I suppose, pleasantly, not pleasantly surprised, but pleased to see that there's a lot of work going into this space. And we've made a real commitment. Over the last 2 years, there's been a lot of work go into it. And, you know, I was somewhat critical through the election campaign around some of the rural roads, and I was just making the point that if I was elected as an incoming mayor, I would continue to support the work that has been done and continue to recognise that, you know, as a community, we can't turn our back on rural roads. They will always be a significant part. And, you know, there is a plan to resheet. I know Aaron's got a plan to resheet. We then move into, you know, fixing and patching those existing sealed roads, and then ultimately moving into a program of looking to do the new seals, as many new seals as we can ultimately. So, you know, this program has been designed carefully. It's well structured. It's well planned, and it's being, I believe, rolled out in a very financially responsible and sustainable manner. So, yeah, thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Duff.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I just wanted to say that, yeah, I've said it before, but like when we first had amalgamation and everyone wondered where the graders went, it was just like, it seemed like they just disappeared. And I went through a whole process where I had like 200 customer requests, and it was just, I couldn't operate as a councillor. And I don't know, I actually a couple of times probably used some swear words, not in council, but outside, because the roads issue was a huge one. And particularly because I was from Division 5, which is a huge rural area, and also obviously Councillor Hanchin has inherited Division 6, which is the same, and just amazing. Now, most of my issues now are overgrown allotments, so I'm not getting many road complaints, but yeah, so I just wanted a big shout out to the team that it's already been said, but just say it has really turned my life around as a councillor to see the change in, you know, what we're seeing. And like the Gain to Heisel Road, it's on this list here. And I used to get so many people along that road saying, you know, that the North Burnett are doing their end and your end is a disgrace. And, you know, it's hard to answer those questions as to why, you know, we weren't, you know, able to achieve that. But now we are achieving that. And I'm hoping to go, you know, to some of those North Burnett councillors, you know, well, look at what we've done. I'm pretty sure now if you drove along that Gain to Heisel Road that our end would actually be the best. So, yeah, so it is actually, it's a fantastic achievement. But I also wanted to have to mention Brisbane Street drainage, because I know that Councillor Roloff has been dreaming about that for a very long time, and now it's been achieved. And so there's some good news stories in the CBDs and the capital upgrades in the towns. And as was mentioned, that Mergen footpath, the way that it is rolling out, to go into Lamb Street and just smash like a footpath and then rebuild it without causing angst to businesses is amazing. So the model that is happening there in the CBD and Mergen should be adopted everywhere, because I have never seen such a smooth process. And they're doing it at night, and they've got, and just, like there's some, there can be some irate business owners in the CBD if you don't get it right, that we've been able to keep them all happy, and that is an amazing achievement. So just, again, it's not just happening out in the rural areas, it's also happening in our towns as well. So just wanted to mention that and congratulate the road team. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Duff. Councillor Froelich, I can't see your microphone, so if your red light's on, oh, there it is. I apologise if I haven't picked you up. Did you want to comment on anything there, Councillor Froelich? I know you've been very pleased with the work done at Brisbane Street. The staff did a tremendous job, I believe, there, didn't they? Thank you.
You know how much I like talking, Mayor. Yeah, a big shout out to the guys, all the crew that worked on Brisbane Street. I've only had positive reports from all the ones down there, and it looks fantastic. And I've been trying to get that up for 4 years, and it's finally happened, and I can't wait to get the guys back on that road so we can take some photos and so they can meet some of the residents, because they really want to go out there and thank them. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Froelich, and of course we have to acknowledge CEO Mark, because he's also provided leadership along with General Manager Meehan to reform the whole roads program and the way in which those services are delivered. It's been a big effort. But as I said before to the community, please don't think we're sitting here patting ourselves on the back. We know that there is still a lot of work to do. I can assure you we have a council who are very committed. We have a staff who are very committed to rural roads, to pavements and to footpaths, and that work will continue. We can give you that commitment. We'll be out on the roads, driving around much more extensively over coming months, over the next 12 months. You will see us outside your property, outside your gateway, driving around, looking at the roads, talking with the staff, just getting their feedback, if nothing else, hopefully dropping off a cold bottle of water or a cold soft drink to them. But certainly that's the plan over the next 12 months. So we look forward to seeing people out there. As Councillor Jones has said, there's a lot of information on our website about the roads program. If you go on there, you'll probably find where your road is going to be is in the program. If you can't find that, feel free to ring our customer contact team here at Council. Speak with your divisional councillor. Speak with Councillor Jones. We are here. We are listening, and we're certainly prepared to respond to the rural people in terms of their roads. If we can wrap up there now, we are a little bit overdue to a break for morning tea. We now have the Councillor Jones' report has been moved by Councillor Jones. Thank you, Councillor Jones. Do we have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Duff. It was already seconded, sorry. I've lost track with the conversation. But thanks very much. All in favour? Yes, thank you all. The motion, the report has been carried unanimously. Okay, so that's the completion of item 8.1. As I said, we might break now, and I'll put forward a procedural motion that the meeting stand adjourned for morning tea and that we resume at 11 a.m. Do we have a second for that procedural motion? Thank you, Councillor Potter. All in favour? Okay, procedural motion carried unanimously. We'll resume at 11 a.m. Thank you all.
Thanks, councillors and staff. Could I get somebody to move that we resume the meeting after morning tea? Councillor Froelich, thank you. We move on now to item 8. Seconder, sorry. Kathy, Councillor Duff, sorry. All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. We move on now to item 8.2, the Alfred Street car park. And as earlier stated in the meeting, the Mayor Otto has a conflict of interest on this one. His business adjoins the car park and his staff use that. So the summary is this project will include car parking, disabled parking, caravan or trailer parking, provision for electric vehicle charge stations, dump point and associated landscaping. The project need was identified during community consultation sessions undertaken as part of the Kingaroy Town Revitalisation Project. The officer's recommendation that council adopts the design for Alfred Street car park as below. So you can see there. Could I have a mover to the recommendation? Councillor Potter, thank you. A seconder? Councillor Shoemaker. Any of the councillors wish to speak to that? Councillor Potter?
Look, this is an exciting thing. I've seen this car park throughout the years, and now there's even, amazingly, 2 lots of line marking in the car park. It hasn't been done since the 80s, if I remember correctly. So to see this done to this standard will be very exciting for the community, for the town, and for everyone who comes to visit the area.
Councillor Shoemaker?
Yes, I agree with Councillor Potter's comments. I'm very excited about this, and certainly I think the provision of caravan parking in town is a really great opportunity for local businesses to really maximise on the value of the grey nomads travelling through the South Burnett. I also think from where we are in a council position, I look forward to working with Councillor Danita Potter, and I think there's a really great opportunity for our community to work together to create a functional space for things like evening markets and to have performers and things in this area. It means not having to actually close streets, and I think it's something that potentially, if we could partner with our community, we could look to do as a trial and see how things go. I think also I've had some discussions with Councillor Potter around creative arts and creating a real creative arts economy and starting with Kingaroy as a bit of a trial. And we're looking at some of the walls in that area are a great space for public art, for murals and alike. And I can just see, you know, on a Friday afternoon or a Saturday evening, we're sitting in the car park with some food vendors, some music, and, you know, have the area accessible for families. So I'm really excited about this project. I think it's a lot more than a car park for Kingaroy, and I commend General Manager Meehan. I know there's been a lot of discussion around the parking methodology. I know his team's drawn a number of designs from, and you know, the final design going with this design of parking is seen to be most functional, I believe. So I'm really excited. Thank you.
Councillor Duff?
Yeah, thank you, Acting Mayor Jones. Yeah, I just wanted to say that as I attended all of the community consultation sessions with the Kingaroy Chamber, and this was the #1 priority by far. They just 100% said if you could just get this one done. So it's really good that it's the design is now to the council table, and yeah, just wonderful that that's happening. But I just wanted a question, because I did have some feedback about concern, and I guess some people haven't seen the design, but just whether there was any issues with the bigger vans being able to turn into the actual park.
Just hand that over to General Manager Meehan for a response.
Yeah, through you, Deputy Mayor. I'll probably take that one on notice, if that's okay, Councillor. There has been some work done to make sure that we have provision there for caravans. My understanding with the dump point is that the caravans can come onto there. There would be a slight reversing manoeuvre for some of those ones that are a bit longer to come in. However, my understanding from the engineers is that the turning circles for that have been approved and checked, but happy to take that on notice for what length the vehicle can actually fit in there and provide some advice.
Councillor Shoemaker?
Just wanted to use this opportunity to ask a question also. I just want to ensure that we're talking with our community and the operators. I know there's an electrical business in that area and there are a few others, just to make sure that we're upfront around any disruption that might be caused while the works are underway. Just that there's a strategy to make sure we're talking with those people.
Yeah, no, thank you. Through you again, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Answer the councillor, project like this, we'll definitely be doing some notification. We normally do media release before everything. I know we have had discussions with electrical contractors there and probably looking to assist them if they want to do some co-contributed works to their access and stuff too. So when we're in doing works, we do like to notify. We don't always get that right. But a project like this, we would definitely be letting them know. It won't be just them, it'll also be the businesses in the laneway and the banks as well, because that car park will be closed for the duration of construction. I would just highlight with council also, it is likely that this project will be a carryover, be one of very few, just given the nature of the timing around the project. For us to start in the time frame between now and 30th of June would be very difficult. And it's likely that we will put a large portion of this work to contract as well, so which means council would need to undertake a tendering process as well. So, but with the design, we can then proceed with our options for delivery. But I would, at this stage, it would be very unlikely the council starts before the 30th of June on this project, given it's now a May resolution to adopt design.
General Manager Meehan, just as another point in the report, which for clarification for the councillors, provision of the electric car charging points is for future provision. It's not being installed this time.
Yeah, that's right. Again, through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, to answer the CEO's question, yes, 100% correct. The original application was put under the state-funded Building Our Regions program, which made provision for electric charge stations and those sort of things. What we'll see here is a basic infrastructure project, but an effective one, which will be reconstruction of the car park, new asphalt surfacing, some landscaping, and provision of a dump point. And there will be electricity and lighting put through there, with provision in future for electrical vehicles. Those charging stations are quite expensive, so we have removed them at this time until we need a warrant there. But what we're trying to do with our infrastructure, and again, we highlight to council, is when we build these sort of things, we're looking at the long-term view. So we do want to make provision for that when funds allow for us to do that. So,
Councillor Duff.
Just one more point, and following up from what Councillor Shoemaker said, just on the shop owners, sometimes I think it's good to actually, as happened in Mergen, to actually go in to the shops, because sometimes the person who owns the shop is not the person who's working the shop, and there can be a breakdown in communication, and that could have easily happened in Mergen. But because we actually went in there and talked to the person that was actually running the shop, I think it makes a huge difference.
yeah, again, through the chair, 100% agree with you. A lot of times, particularly Mergen's a classic case where the person running the shop is not always the owner. Extensively, when we do works within CBDs, we've learned from past history that we talk to both parties. Generally, what we'll do is we'll write to the landowner, and then we will go door to door to make sure that we get those outcomes. Any work that we do in the CBD, we do like to consult with businesses. Again, we don't always get that right at short notice, but major projects like this, so this is going to take quite a few weeks to construct. And similar to when we do any works within a main street, we will definitely be going door to door. So, and give people notice. One of the other things here is that following council's resolution provides approved, we will write to the chamber to advise them so that they can then. And one of the things that we have done, particularly in Kingaroy and in Mergen, is to meet with those community groups or the chambers or the business development associations. And I think that opens up a lot of dialogue early, particularly around, it's not just about what we're building, it's actually how we're going to build it. And to be honest, they can be quite disruptive, which council's aware of. So happy to take that feedback on board.
Yeah, I think just summing up, General Manager Meehan, I think as Councillor Duff referred to about the progress in Mergen, I think that's a very good example, and I think that council can feel very comfortable with you guys moving forward, knowing what you've got to do with the progress and the success you've had in Mergen. I think we're in pretty good hands moving forward. Councillor Shoemaker?
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor Jones. I would just, through you, Mr. CEO, just like to talk about, the next phase in terms of this car park. I know we've had some preliminary discussions in council around how we may be able to connect this to the rail trail and provide that provision where people could park with their bikes and go straight through to the rail trail, which I think is a really great opportunity for Kingaroy also. So I'm keen to, following on from this, progress conversations about that. I understand we don't always have the funding, but I do like the idea of having a project up our sleeve in that space, particularly when we know the rail trail is such a popular facility here in Kingaroy and across the region.
All right, are all councils sufficiently asked questions? Everybody happy? Okay, so I guess the officer's recommendation that council adopts a design for the Alfred Street car park as below. It's been moved by councillor Potter, seconded by councillor Shoemaker. All those in favour? Against? Carried 7-0. Thank you. I'd now invite the mayor back. 6-0, sorry, 6-0. The mayor was absent. Yeah, sorry about that. So can we invite Mayor Otto back and he can take over? Thank you.
Thank you all. Right, we're on to 8.3, which is at 165, the Bridge Renewal Program. So in summary, we've had recently completed level 2 and level 3 bridge reports. I've identified that KT Peters Bridge, located on River Road, Kingaroy, and Home Creek Loop Road Bridge have sustained significant decay and require remediation. Round 5 of the Bridge Renewal Program is an opportune time to submit application, as it is a 50-50 federally funded scheme. So the officer's recommendation is that council submit KT Peters Bridge and Home Creek Loop Road Bridge for round 5 of the Bridge Renewal Program. Do we have a mover for the motion? Okay, so we'll open the floor to discussion on the matter. Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Jones.
Thanks, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Any time that we can get funding to improve our bridges across the region, and we've done a pretty good job so far. I think there's only a few still outstanding that council is responsible for. There's a lot of state bridges that we need to lobby for, and one of my passions is the one over Tangiringi Creek out near Maidenwell. It's terribly dangerous, and we've got to continue to lobby the state government. But these are bridges under the local government control of the South Burnett Regional Council, and I think it's a straightforward resolution, and I think it's good projects.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Jones. And of course, if you have a look in the details of the report, KT Peters Bridge indicate that the existing guardrail requires repair, as well as other minor maintenance repairs in the structure, and the works are valued at approximately $80,000. Home Creek Loop Road Bridge, we have a report on the structure indicate that the existing bridge is in disrepair and at present is currently closed to the public due to low traffic volumes along the road. It's recommended by council officers to demolish the bridge and replace it with a low-level floodway, and that these works have been valued at approximately $100,000. It is noted that to replace the existing timber bridge with a modern equivalent would be in excess of $150,000. So that's compared to the $100,000 to build the low-level floodway, providing a level of service in excess of the remainder of the road. So the $150,000, what we're saying there, is in excess of the level of the remainder of the road, and council officers see the construction of a floodway to be low risk to the public. So council officers seeking endorsement from the council to submit these 2 bridges into the Bridge Renewals Program, noting that applications for this round of funding close on the 29th of May.
I thank you, Mayor Otto. I just wanted to check in terms of replacing it with the around the Home Creek Loop Road Bridge. I just wanted to make sure that if we put a floodway in, if it does rain and there is floods in that area, that properties aren't stranded, or if we built a bridge, would that be a better outcome? I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, General Manager. Meehan.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just to answer the councillor's question. So Home Creek Loop Road is actually a loop road, so there is alternative access available. That bridge is currently closed now, and there's a low-level floodway. So what we're looking to do is basically build a permanent floodway in place of the bridge. So council would actually save some money on its assets, but they have full access to their properties now. So we see it as an opportunity. It's probably more for convenience for those properties, which allows them some low-level flood immunity. We think it's a good outcome. We actually wrote to all those residents when we closed the bridge, and yeah, we had no objections. So people were really good to work with.
Could I just add, Mr Mayor, to that? I've been there and looked, and I know many of the property owners along Home Creek Road. And Councillor Shoemaker, I can understand your concerns there. It's currently low traffic because the bridge is closed, but there's access on both ends of Home Creek Road or Home Loop Road. The property owners would be appreciative of anything that happened there, and if it was a low-level crossing, which saved us a deal of money, I can assure you there's no property owners in there that'll be transferring along that road when there's 2 foot of water running down Home Creek, because it's not that style of country or accessibility where that would be an issue. So I think that's a reasonable, great fix for that, rather than spend an enormous amount of money on a bridge there. So that will be greatly welcomed by the landowners in that neck of the woods, that's for sure.
Thank you, Councillor Henshin. Right, well, if we don't have any further commentary on the matter, we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you all. The resolution has been carried unanimously. Thank you, General Manager Meehan, for providing the information. Sorry, microphone. The item is the Community Arts, Heritage, Sport and Recreation Portfolio Report. And I'll hand over to you, Councillor Potter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to start off with the communities side. So we've got the libraries, the South Burnett library closures. Following instruction from the federal and state government, all South Burnett library branches closed on the 25th of March 2020. Prior to this, loans per membership account were increased to 20 to allow library patrons a chance to stock up on reading material. Behind the scenes, all customers' reservations were suspended and all items on loan were put on loan renewal until the 1st of June 2020. This has since been extended until July 31st, 2020, ensuring that all customers will not receive overdue notices or charges due to the closures of our libraries. Library reopening from Monday the 25th of May 2020, South Burnett libraries will reopen to the public with limited numbers as per government guidelines. Library staff have been consulting with Council's People and Culture team, with risk assessments completed by Council's Workplace Health and Safety Department to identify and problem solve the potential risks for reopening. A maximum of 10 customers in each branch at any one time will be permitted to return and borrow items available on the shelf. Perspex screens will be in place at each library service counter, with customers able to sanitise their hands using the newly installed sanitation stations provided by Council. Returned items will remain in dedicated quarantined area in each library for a period of at least 24 hours before they are handled by staff and put back into circulation. Furniture and computer facilities have been rearranged to meet the social distancing requirements, and whilst bookings for public access computers will be available, each session will be limited to 15 to 30 minutes. Regular cleaning of communal spaces will be undertaken by staff, with wipes available for customers if needed. Extended loan limits will remain in place, with 20 items per membership card allowed. Reservations and interlibrary loans will not be reinstated at this stage. Library staffing. Anna Durham, the South Burnett Regional Librarian, retired on the 30th of April 2020, and Council would like to thank Anna for her contribution and the service and wish her every happiness as she begins this next step in her life. And I would like to say here that Anna was a great source of knowledge for me, being the portfolio holder, and in general, she was just a beautiful person who wouldn't do a bad thing against anyone. She was one of the most amazing people you could meet. and I will miss her dearly. But we also have gained Jane Gunn. She became the South Bennett Library's first 5 ever program coordinator, and Jane brings with her a wealth of library knowledge, having worked in a similar role with the Gympie Regional Libraries. And during the COVID-19 closure, staff working in the library have been cleaning and reshelving items as they are safe to do so, whilst contributing online content in the form of library resources and collection reviews. Staff have also been assisting Council's disaster management team and other council departments, while some staff have elected to take some leave. The South Bennett Library is online, so to meet a rising demand for online content, South Bennett Libraries purchased additional online resources. Initially, the library focused on ebooks and e-audio collection to ensure new content was readily available. The Storybox Library, which features a range of actors, authors, and illustrators reading well-known picture books aloud, was purchased to meet the community's early literacy needs. Beamer Film, an online movie streaming service, was purchased to increase access to free movies from home. In addition to this, South Bennett Libraries purchased an electronic magazine platform called RB Digital, which is the first e-magazine collection for South Bennett Libraries, and it allows simultaneous magazine borrowing from the comfort of your own home. And the library is offering overphone support for members of the community who may need assistance connecting to the library's online resources. The library has also produced a number of how-to video tutorials which have performed well on the South Bennett Library's Facebook page. Overall, the page reach has increased by 424%, with 11,373 people seeing posts from our service. In terms of tech support, the library has created a series of simple tech videos that deal with the issues including e-safety for children and how to spot a potential scam and online shopping. The First 5 Forever, the South Bennett Library's First 5 Forever program crossed the digital divide, with Jess and Jane recording and posting a series of online story times. These videos aim to keep rhyme time and story time attendees connecting with the library staff and programs. Jane has also been contributing content to the 4610 partnerships page. I might add here that it's under 8 weeks next week, and National Simultaneous Story Time is on Wednesday the 27th. And I'd like to add here also that I'm reading that book. Actually, I should say I've already read it, so it's already done. So if there's any mistakes in it, they can pull me back in to get them fixed. So that will be released next Wednesday, I think around 10 o'clock, as all libraries all over Australia read that same story. And I'm not telling you the story because that's a surprise. I attended my first Wide Bay Regional Sport and Recreation Advisory Committee meeting on the 7th of May with council staff via Skype, where I was nominated and endorsed as committee chair. Discussions were held around how everyone is dealing with COVID-19 restrictions and the effects it has had on local sporting clubs and available funding opportunities. The Department of National Parks, Recreation, Sport and Racing advised that the Queensland Health, Education, Sport and Recreation are currently collaborating to design a statewide implementation of the Australian Institute of Sport framework for rebooting sport in a COVID-19 environment. Health and Wellbeing Queensland launched a new digital hub, Boost Your Health During COVID-19, design and provide support, inspiration and ideas to help Queenslanders stay healthy and active during the COVID-19. It features content from a wide range of alliance partners, including a series of fitness challenges as set by some of Queensland's sporting greats. The NPRSR, which is the National Sport and Recreation Advisory, advised that clubs were successful under the Active Clubs grant and have been notified that eligibility has been extended to operational costs. This is a one-off grant for them. The Active Community Infrastructure Program that the South Bennett Regional Council applied for in March has been put on hold at present. and the NPRSR are in the process of contacting local governments about how sports organisations can be supported under the COVID-19 situation. This project team will be headed up by Anna Barrett. Council, sport and recreation staff are continuing ongoing community consultations and assistance and have been working in with the Blackbutt sporting clubs, which includes the rugby league, touch cricket and athletics, with facility assessments and future funding opportunities, the Kingaroy sporting clubs, including the soccer, touch, rugby league and AFL, on future development plans and funding opportunities, and with the Nanango Sporting Association with facility assessment and funding options. And I'd like to talk about a cricket pitch, but it's in Kathy Duff's portfolio report, so I'll speak to it then. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to move that my Community Arts, Heritage and Sport and Recreation portfolio report be received. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Potter, that very positive and comprehensive report. We have a seconder for that. Thank you, Councillor Froloff. Okay, does anyone want to make comment in relation to the report? Thank you, Councillor Jones.
I do, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make mention of one of the staff that works over here in the library at Kingaroy, and understanding that all our staff do a wonderful job, but Councillor Henson and myself had the privilege of sitting in with Christy Thomas last Friday, and she teaches computer skills. Now, I don't know whether you people will be happy with the beast that she's creating at the minute, but let me just say that this lady over there is one of the most easiest people to take a lesson from. She's very, very approachable. She's got a great connection with the people that she's dealing with and all that sort of stuff. And I believe that they do actually have courses for the general public. So I would certainly encourage Councillor Potter that that's something that we need to promote, because she is a wonderful person and very, very good. And we sat with her for an hour or an hour and a half, it was supposed to be, and it turned into 3 hours or whatever it was. We just got so engrossed in the whole process. So I just want to make mention, Christy Thomas over at the library does a wonderful job. Anybody that's low on ability to work a computer, as I was, please go and see the lady over at the library. It's fantastic.
So obviously she's got a lot of patience then, Councillor Jones. Sorry.
Well said. You took the words out of my mouth, Councillor Potter. And I must say, I'm sure everyone around the room is looking forward to experiencing Councillor Jones and Councillor Henson's newfound computing skills. Councillor Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mayor Otto. I just wanted to commend the library staff and GM Peter O'May. I think it's an enormous thing to open a library in all of our libraries in the current environment. It's such a change to the way in which we normally do things, and it's a great example of how council is pivoting in our community in response to COVID-19. I definitely have noticed in my walking in the forecourt every day how many people are really missing that library and are really waiting for it to open, particularly people with disabilities. It's a really popular space that's used, and it's great that they have that in our community. So please pass on our great thanks. And I also just would like to talk to the Active Club grants. That's a great opportunity, and certainly I support anything council can do in terms of supporting sporting groups to apply and be part of that. It's certainly getting as much money as we can into the South Burnett, particularly when it comes to those operational costs. I recognise sporting clubs have been hit hard and families have been hit hard too, and it's really difficult to necessarily pay membership fees and those sorts of things in the current environment. So I think that's a great opportunity, because sports are they're the lifeblood of the South Burnett's community. So.
Yeah, Councillor Shoemaker, well said, and I think I can just support that by saying that we're all aware that our sporting clubs are very much struggling at the moment. They've got no revenue from memberships, but they've still got not just the ongoing costs of insurance, but also the maintenance often involved in their clubhouses or their facilities generally. So we are very much thinking of those sporting clubs, and aware that COVID-19 has certainly brought a number of challenges for them, and certainly encourage them to seek out that funding. Okay, do we have any further comment in relation to Councillor Potter's very good report. Otherwise, we'll look to pass that resolution. All in favour? Good. Passed unanimously. Thank you all. Right, we now go on to item 10.1 at 169, and Councillor Henshin, we'd like to welcome you to present your report on rural services, natural resource management, planning and compliance services. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors. Great pleasure. I bring forward my first official rural services and natural resource management portfolio report. I'd like to start with our weed control. Pest management contractors and staff treated 55 hectares of restricted environmental and infrastructure spraying during April, which included lantana, giant rat tail grass, Parthenium, annual ragweed and African box thorn in the areas of Hivesville, Mergen, Mount Stanley, Goodya, Nuku and Ferrydale areas. Hivesville, Blackbutt, Mount Stanley, Runnymede with the rat's tail grass. That's, as many rural landowners would know, that's a fairly serious issue. Parthenium, Councillor Duff would reiterate with me there, Parthenium doesn't matter where it is, in the South Burnett and in Queensland, it's a major hazard. Annual ragweed in Benarkan and the boxthorn down in MP and Stonelands, Wandai. Splatter guns were loaned to landowners at Cumbia, Brooklands, Ellesmere, Mount McEwen and Burrendown. That's good to see. Trailers were hired out in Roondon and Memorandie for giant rat's tail grass control, and Cobbs Hill and MP Creek for lantana. And the wild dog and the feral pig control, many would be aware I'm involved in wild dog and feral control in the rural sector. Council's Pest and Stock Route Officer provided landowners with a loan of traps to control the wild dogs in the Cobbs Hill and Brooklands area, feral cats in the Warrulan, Nanango, Proston and Wilkesdale area, and wild pigs in the Warrulan area. Landowners were supplied with 100 doggone baits in the Bundoomba area, 400 doggone baits in the Tarong area, and 20 fresh meat dog meat baits in the Tarong area, 12 fresh dog meat baits in the Gordonbrook area. In rabbit control, council injected 1 rabbit with Khaleesi virus in the Coolabunnya area, and with wandering livestock, council received 7 requests to attend wandering livestock requests across the region, resulting in the impoundment of 1 horse. Stock route grazing permits. To date, NRM staff assessed no roadside grazing adjustment applications during the month of April. And in the sale yard staff inspected 1,752 and processed 2,022 cattle through the dip in April. A total of 1,109 head were sold through the Coolabunnya sale yards. And the first weaner sale for the year, held at Coolabunnya on Thursday, the 23rd of April 2020, attracted a total of 833 head. A total of 829 was sold live weight, with a further 4 being sold at auction and no head being passed in. Total sale generated for this was $817,989.75. In planning during our COVID-19, amendments to the Queensland planning legislation are now in effect to address concerns raised by a range of stakeholders, including local government and industry, in response to the COVID-19. Queensland's planning legislation has been amended to allow the Minister to decide when an essential business or use, for example supermarkets, should be able to operate and restock 24 hours per day, 7 days a week, during an event such as COVID-19, public health emergency or other future disasters, as well as provide the opportunity for any person to seek relief from existing development application conditions or other operating constraints through a simple application to the state for a temporary use licence made to the state, as well as introduce flexibility for the Minister to suspend or extend any of the statutory time frames across the planning framework. The new provisions provide for business continuity and supply by removing planning constraints, which could be limiting the operation and delivery of essential services. These provisions are now a permanent part of our framework, providing flexibility to respond not only to COVID-19, but also to floods, bushfires, cyclones and other disasters. However, the effect of these powers is temporary and only applies for the duration and declared event. The Planning Minister declared the COVID-19 event as an applicable event under the amended legislation on the 19th of March 2020. The Minister made a blanket declaration allowing supermarkets, warehouses and transport stations that directly support the supply of food and essential services to operate 24-hour, 7-day-a-week to ensure that they can work around the clock to deliver vital goods and services. This declaration is still in place. Supports the roadmap to easing Queensland's restrictions. Relief Builder Certifier. Council has invited quotations for a suitably qualified and insured private building certifier to supply Council's building certifier in delivering building certification services. The service may also include providing building certification services and advice to Council's property section on properties owned by Council. The focus of this position is to support Council's building certification serviced by undertaking building certification for Class 1 and Class 10 buildings and structures and other building classes on occasion as determined by Council's building certifier, meeting statutory requirements and community expectations. This position will be fixed for 12 months and allow Council's building certifier to complete outstanding certifications and inspections and allow for annual leave. In the longer term, the position will allow Council's building certifier to undertake compliance work and support building activities of community and not-for-profit organisations that lease council land. Dog and cat desection initiative. The RSPCA's statewide annual desexing initiative, known as Operation Wanted, is running again this year and starts 1st of June 2020 and concludes the 31st of August 2020. Dog and cat owners are able to access a 20% discount on normal desexing prices at participating vets during the campaign. And for more information on how to find your local participating vets, there's a webpage there, www.operationwanted.com.au. COVID-19, food establishments. Council's environmental health officers has been busy providing advice and supporting food businesses that were required to close indoor dining aspects of their business because of the health directive. Council staff will now also be continuing to work with food businesses as the restrictions start to be relaxed. With that, I'd like for Council to accept my portfolio's report and move that it be received.
Thanks very much, Councillor Henson. A very comprehensive report. You've got a lot going on there, of course, and it's good to see that work's happening, particularly with those feral animals across the region, which have been an issue, as well as some of those invasive species.
And that's exciting because we've got there's plenty of scope to go with that, and we've got people in our departments behind the scenes working on that. There's some fairly exciting things happening with available grants for certain things, so that will come out in the future as to where and what we can do with that. So, and as many are aware, I'm involved in feral and pest management in my own region and properties. So look forward to it.
Thanks very much, Councillor Henson. Do we have a second for that motion? Yep, thanks very much, Councillor Froloff. Okay, does anyone else want to add comment to that? Thank you, Councillor Duff.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just want to on the food, the compliance and the working with the businesses. I know that our staff, particularly Miss Nylon, Megan Nylon, has been just awesome working with. I know one business who wanted to get a license I asked on Friday, and they wanted to do something on Sunday, and in the course of a couple of hours, that license was issued. So they're just working amazingly well with the businesses in this really tough time. And I just want to have a shout out to that section of council, that compliance, and particularly the food licensing section. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Duff. It's another area where our staff have really stepped up in responding to the needs of the community during COVID-19. Thank you. Councillor Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mayor Otto. I just wanted to comment, it's really impressive every report to see how many dollars actually go through the Coolabunny sale yards. And I know council has had a number of discussions and will continue to focus on how that facility, an asset in our community, continues operating. I certainly would like to also acknowledge the work that's been done with food businesses across the region. These are it's a new operating environment for everybody, and it's been great to see our community has been really receptive to those changes as well. And, being kind to each other during this time is really important. And I'd just like to really put that message out in our community to remember that people are operating in a new environment, and it's really important. I'm really disheartened to hear of some people making complaints in shopping centres and the like when there's such great work happening in our community to keep our community going. So I just encourage everyone to be kind to each other. It's all new territory for everyone, and we're all doing what we can to pivot and flex. But thank you, Councillor Henson.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Shoemaker. Councillor Potter?
Yeah, Councillor Henson's report mentioned Operation Wanted, and we do have a lot of feral cats in the area, and we do know that. So I suppose I want to challenge everyone out there who has a cat, get that 20% off and get your cat desexed, as Councillor Henson said.
Yeah, and that, just to reiterate, that program starts on the 1st of June and runs for 3 months to the end of August. So contact your vet and see if they're eligible, would be the message to the community there. Thank you, Councillor Potter. Okay, do we have any further comments in relation to Councillor Henson's very comprehensive report? Thank you, Councillor Jones.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I'd just like to make mention of, in that report, that we've called for or position of a compliance officer in the building section. That's going to be a big thing, and we do need to address that, excuse me, for all the construction and to keep things moving positively. That's one area in council that we have really struggled with. It's understaffed, undermanned, and the people that are in that section have done a wonderful job trying to get through the program, but unfortunately they do need some help. So that was the highlight of that presentation from Councillor Henson there, was that we've got a position going to be filled very shortly to help the people in the community.
Certainly look forward to seeing that building certifier in place so that we can see those building approvals working through the system in an efficient manner. Thanks, Councillor Jones. All right, well, thanks very much, Councillor Henson. We'll now move that Councillor Henson's report be accepted and vote on that. All in favour? Okay, carried unanimously. Thank you all. Right, on to item 12.1 on the agenda at 171, which is the Rural Resilience, Parks and Gardens, Property and Facility Management and Indigenous Affairs Report. Is that where we're up to? Oh, sorry, Councillor Froloff. Goodness, I skipped forward. I was keen to get to lunch. My apologies. I was thinking about the lunch. Okay, Councillor Froloff, thanks very much.
Thanks, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to go to the local management disaster group. Yesterday we released a media release with this pamphlet. So I'm pleased to advise that the council, through the local disaster management group, human and social and economic subgroup, have produced a brochure to assist the South Burnett regional residents, especially our rural and remote community members, with information on where they can get assistance during the unprecedented times. The community relief and support agencies in the South Burnett brochure specifically identifies groups, organisations and businesses available in the South Burnett who can provide assistance to our community members who may be experiencing extraordinary challenges during the COVID-19 pandemic. There are many organisations located in the South Burnett that are dedicated to providing support to the people when they need it, and many of their usual services being adapted to suit the COVID-19 restrictions. I urge residents to keep an eye out for the vivid little yellow brochure themed in line with Ray of Sunshine South Burnett, in which will be mailed out to all South Burnett residents. This brochure will also be available at all council Council's customer service centres and libraries, or can be downloaded from Council's website on www.southburnett.qld.gov.au. Members of the community are also encouraged to keep informed with the latest COVID-19 health advice at Queensland Health or by phoning 13 Health or 13 43 25 84 or visiting Council's website www.southburnett.qld.gov.au COVID-19 page on the Council's Facebook page. South Bennett Regional Council reminds residents to follow the Queensland Government messaging, and if you are sick, stay home. If you're feeling unwell with symptoms of COVID-19, you should contact your doctor after being tested, practice social distancing, and continue good hygiene practices. So please be aware of your surroundings and stay safe, everyone. And now I'd like to go on to my water and wastewater. The current water main replacements are as follows. Nanango, Wickham Street, completed. Will Street West, completed. George Street North, completed. Alfred Street, completed. Drayton Street, completed. Rurulan, West Rurulan Road, completed. To Kingaroy, we've got Burnett, Haley to Alfred, has been completed. West Haley to Catalan has been completed, and Knight Walter to Hodge has also been completed. And Youngman Haley to Avoca is 95% completed with defect repairs underway. Youngman, Venman and Banksia should be completed by the 20th of May, end of May. Toomey, Youngman and William is also completed, and regional we have a replacement of 1,800 water meter replacements, and currently there's 1,489 completed, and we're progressing well. Restrictions and dam levels. In the last responding period, BP Dam was at 22.4% and Banduma Dam at 37.1%. Council will continue with seeking alternative water supplies, with drought conditions continuing throughout the South Burnett region. Council is monitoring water restriction levels, but all towns remain on level 3 restrictions. I'd just like to let everyone know that the water allocations, financial year consumptions and reactive works year to date will be tabled and available on Council's website after today's meeting. And waste. COVID-19 update. Council's waste service wheelie bin collections and waste facility operations have continued relatively normal during the COVID virus period. With a number of people being restricted to home because of non-essential business closures, there have been a noticeable spike in the volumes of waste being received at Council's various transfer stations. The Easter long weekend in particular saw considerable waste volumes received. Council's waste staff and contractors have been able to deal with this increase. The COVID-19 and the state waste levy. The state are considering whether to continue with the scheduled $5 increase to the state waste levy, which was set to increase on the 1st of July 2020. There has been a number of entities lobbying the state government in this regard. No final decision has been released by the state concerning the state waste levy at this time of writing this update. And the COVID-19 and LGAQ waste forums. LGAQ has been facilitating a number of online forums between local government and waste managers and the state to make sure that all councils are keeping up to date with the health directed requirements. South Burnett Regional Council's waste section has been participating in reports that our responses to date have been in line with the health directive, as well as other local government council waste department responses to the COVID-19 phenomenon. Asset management. Council's waste section has been very busy in 2020 finalising its waste register and developing an asset management plan. The final draft waste asset management plan will be presented to Council shortly. And that is my portfolio for local disaster management, water and waste management I'd like to have.
Thank you, Councillor Fryloff, for that excellent report. Right, so Councillor Fryloff's moved that. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Duff. And can I just say that there's a lot of work happening in this space. The water mains replacement is something that we don't see as a community. It's underground work that isn't obvious. So it's not the shiny, pretty stuff that everyone gets to see as we do with roads and parks and gardens and other things. So it's been a significant program, and congratulations to everyone who's been involved so far, General Manager Meehan and Councillor and all the staff involved. We also had, in relation to water, as you know, the water study has been happening. Most people will be aware of that. It's continuing. The consultants, along with our fellow Jed Brennan, are working very industriously on that. And in fact, they were here last week and visited the Kingaroy Water Treatment Plant and spoke with one of our staff and come back particularly impressed, made the observation that we've probably got the most, the sharpest, the most, just incredible water treatment staff that they've seen across the state. So that was a pretty good rap for our guys at the Kingaroy Water Treatment Plant, which of course we know has been identified by other regions and even engineers internationally as state of the art. So we've not only got the great facility, but we've got some great, really, really technical, high quality people operating the plant. And of course, we've got a lot of good technical work happening right across that space. So well done. Councillor Fryloff, if you could also forward through that local disaster management report to Linnell, if you could. We just didn't have that one up on the screen, so that'd be great. Okay, anyone else that would like to comment on that? Yeah, thank you, Councillor Potter.
Thank you, Councillor Fryloff. That was a very good report, but I'd like to talk about the brochure that the LDMG have done. Look, we all know that there's an issue with mental health in our area. And again, I would like to bring this to everyone's attention, the mental health and suicide awareness. So please speak up, reach out. There are Facebook pages out there if you need to link up, but that brochure has telephone numbers on it, and especially for people who don't have connectivity, they can make a phone call. They are all there. Some of them are local, some of them aren't. You can have a choice. So that's a great brochure, and thank you to the staff and the LDMG for this great initiative. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Potter, and I know a significant amount of work went into that publication. It was produced internally by council, so our staff actually did all the work themselves, and they actually rang every single one of those support agencies and confirmed that they were still operating, that we had the correct number. So it was a tremendous effort, and it's a wonderful resource. For those people in the community who are watching this, I would encourage you, when that arrives in your letterbox, to take advantage of it. Keep it close and handy, keep it on the kitchen table or on the fridge, because it is a wonderful resource. Thank you. Councillor Duff.
Yes, I just wanted to follow on from what Councillor Potter's been actually mentioned, and congratulate you on that extensive report. Yeah, the thing about this brochure is a lot of people assume that everyone's on the internet, but a lot of rural people, particularly that we've got an ageing rural population, a lot of them don't have internet, and so that's why the phone numbers are just so important, so they can just they've all got phones, so I just think that's fantastic. And also big shout out also to the Ray of Sunshine South Burnett campaign, because I think it has made a difference, and I'm really pleased that they've incorporated that into this brochure. But I also had a question to General Manager Meehan, just about the dam levels. How has that affected the irrigators? Are they letting the irrigators back on with the increased levels, or where's that sitting?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. My understanding is, and just correct me if I'm wrong, is that the medium priorities are back on at Boondooma above 32%, I believe. It might be 34%. I haven't seen what the current allocation is for BP, so happy to take that on notice and provide that information back to council if that's okay.
Yeah, thank you very much, General Manager Meehan. We'll look forward to getting that information through once that comes to hand. Right. Okay. Well, Councillor Jones.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I think it's an appropriate time now that Councillor Potter and Councillor Duff have drawn the attention to mental health. There was a challenge going around, and I do believe that there has been a few myself, Councillor Shoemaker and Councillor Duff that have taken that challenge, and I do believe that there's 4 sitting members of the council that were challenged and are currently haven't done the challenge. So I think it is a great thing. It's drawing attention and creating the conversation around mental health. So it is a wonderful cause. It's a bit of fun, but it does a wonderful job in getting the conversation out there. So I'm waiting very patiently, and I'm happy to do it with any one of you. I'll redo it. I want to re-nominate because there's a lot of people that I've forgotten. There's the CEO sitting up there and a few other ladies out the back that give me a bit of a hard time, and a few of my Aboriginal mates that have got a nomination coming. But I'd like to see the 4 other councillors do that challenge.
Can I just comment on that? Thanks very much. Look, it is a bit of fun, but it does have a very important message behind it, doesn't it? And thanks very much, Councillor Jones, for reminding us of that. But thanks more importantly for starting the process with council of that challenge, because mental health is a huge issue. And let's face it, a lot of men are confronted with that. A lot of families are dealing with fathers or brothers affected by this, or sons. So it's a wonderful challenge. I can certainly say that I'll be looking forward to meeting you with and less than 8 others in one of the local hotels before the weekend to complete my section of the challenge. And I do know that I'll have to also tip in the $200 because I didn't do so within the 24 hours. But thanks for reminding us. And thanks very much, Councillor Jones, because as I said, it is a really, really important cause. Councillor Duff.
Yeah, I just want to say that too. That I know that Pastor Max Conlon this morning, he's Councillor Shoemaker and I talked to him. There's a lot of suicide issues at Cherbourg at the moment, and he's just lost one of his grandkids, and so it was really, really sad to hear that, and so it is a big deal. And but I just, thank you, Councillor Jones, for nominating me. I want to do it again because I absolutely love raw eggs. And I also wanted to have a shout out to General Manager Meehan and his team, because I know he had and who else? There was quite a few. Did it? General Manager O'May and who else was in? There was you challenged quite a few couples, and I think Donna Brown, and that they all did it as well. So the staff are getting on board with it as well. So, and I do think it makes a huge difference, and we do need to get that message out there, as Councillor Potter said.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Duff. And it's been really, I suppose, pleasing to see how the staff have engaged in these community support initiatives. The Ray of Sunshine, the way people got dressed up in the office here the other day was absolutely tremendous. There was yellow everywhere, and I was particularly taken by our customer contact team member Brad, and his yellow outfit was absolutely tremendous. So, everyone had a bit of fun with it, but they all understand too. The staff understand that it's a really important message, both with Ray of Sunshine, supporting people through COVID, but as the staff and as council are doing, understanding that this stuff is really important to the community, to our community, because we are affected as much as any region in the country by mental health. And absolutely, congratulations to everybody involved. And I think, as Councillor Duff said on the video of her drinking her raw eggs, and it's interesting to see that you've now developed a taste for them, but as you said, it's not weak to speak. So if you are feeling the effects of mental health, please do pick up the brochure, contact the relevant agencies, speak with your local GP, your doctor, or even speak with a friend or a family member and start that conversation, because it is certainly not weak to speak, and you need to do so. So we'd and to let everyone know that as a community, I'm sure that we will continue to pull together on this over the long haul, even post COVID-19. Yeah. Right. Well, have we actually? Where are we up to now? We need to pass Councillor Frolof's report. All in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously, and thank you very much, Councillor Frolof. Right, now, I jumped the gun there a little bit, but over to you, Councillor Duff, to present item 12.1, Portfolio Report on Rural Resilience, Parks and Gardens, Property and Facility Management, and Indigenous Affairs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My first item is rural resilience. Planning is beginning in anticipation of funding being received as part of the federal government drought package. The drought is still having a large impact on our rural communities. I am very pleased to lead this new rural resilience portfolio. I think that Council dedicating a portfolio to rural resilience shows that we value our rural communities and that we understand the struggles they face with changing weather patterns. I'm excited to lead this portfolio and look forward to working more closely with our rural communities in this role. In parks and gardens, Kingaroy, Mergen, Wandi, Proston, Nanango, Blackbutt and all surrounding areas. With the welcome rain falling in the South Burnett parks over the previous months, staff have been kept extremely busy mowing green spaces across our region. 15 staff on mowers worked tirelessly during this period, and at times staff thought they were fighting a losing battle. Finally, with the slower growing conditions, they gained the upper hand. The mowing schedule is now back on track, and staff have been able to start work on completing finer touch-ups. This includes weed eating, spraying of bindies, revitalising soil and timed irrigation in gardens with tree and hedge pruning starting throughout the CBD areas. There are a number of trees in the QE2 park in Lamb Street that are very old and are unhealthy. Council engaged independent arboriculture services, and they produced a report for each tree with recommended actions. 3 Chinese celtus trees have now been removed due to safety concerns following the arborist's report. The stumps will be removed and another tree planted to replace and complement the area. Rogers Drive Roundabout Revitalisation Program has begun with the first 45 established trees planted from Bunnings past Rogers Drive heading to Nanango. Work will continue over the coming weeks with most planting expected to be finished by the end of May. Slashing of the rail trail has been completed from Mergen to Kingaroy, and now staff are starting to re-oil the chairs and 1K safety markers, and the ones completed are looking great. Surface maintenance has been undertaken along certain areas of the trail as per customer requests. Park staff have undertaken duties as requested in response to the federal and state government direction with COVID-19. As of last Saturday, all playgrounds, skate parks and open park space have been reopened. However, strict physical distancing measures still apply and gatherings will be limited to a maximum of 10 people. Council has updated signage in all these areas to ensure a consistent message is received within our community. Council has introduced cleaning of all playground equipment, etc., to occur every Monday and Friday, bringing them in line with what is being undertaken in our public amenities currently. Works for Queensland, the installation of softball in Memorial Park and Apex Park is completed. In CAPEX, the playground and softball renewal at First Settlers Park, Banarkin, and Les Muller Park, Blackbutt are now completed. Apex Park has had a new footpath installed connecting the car park to the existing ramp. New fencing and repair to lookout substructure has also been completed. Pruning of trees to enhance the view from the lookout over Kingaroy is now completed. The cricket pitch at River Road has been replaced with a concrete slab and new synthetic grass laid. Kingaroy Junior Cricket Club have complimented Council on how good it looks and can't wait to start playing on the new surface. And this cricket pitch was organised through the Sport and Rec section of Council. And I just had to acknowledge Councillor Potter, and I think she's got a few words to say about that pitch, but it's wonderful to have such a facility in a public space. Both Nanango and Kingaroy skate parks have had additional ramps installed and were ready for use in time for the Stage 1 easing of restrictions. With our dams, both Bunduma and Bjelke-Petersen Dam closed on the 27th of March 2020 due to the COVID-19 requirements. Locked gates and signage were installed at both park entrances. All guests with bookings up to 31st of August 2020 have been contacted and refunds and credits processed. With the easing of restrictions from midnight on the 1st of May 2020, both Bunduma and Bjelke-Petersen dams were open to the public within a 50k radius from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily, with 1 boat ramp and 1 amenity open for use. These restrictions have remained in place, with the only change being that travel within the region is up to 150k from a person's home, still maintaining social distancing and ensuring gatherings are no greater than 10 persons. Accommodation and camping remains closed and is anticipated to reopen in line with Stage 2 easing of restrictions in June 2020 on a date to be confirmed. Property and facility management. Ringsfield House roof and structural tie-down upgrade project has been awarded to Campbell Construction Company. This project has commenced with site preparation and security fencing being installed early this month. This project is partially funded by Department of Local Government, Racing and Multicultural Affairs, Grants and Subsidies Program, and partially funded through Council's Capital Works Program. Council has awarded contracts to Total Pool Renovations for the installation of new pool filtration system into Wandai swimming pool. Works will include craning in the tanks, circulation pumps and material to the site. Also, contracts have been awarded to Zane Pool Heating for the installation of solar heating for Mergen and Wandai swimming pools. Works to commence during May. During the closure of swimming pools under the COVID-19 restrictions, Council has brought forward maintenance works at the South Burnett Aquatic Centre. Works have been scheduled over the next 5 weeks, including the replacement of valves, replacement of grandstands, new floor coverings in the kitchen, and replacement of rusted steel supports and the plastic grates around the hydro pool. Council has completed the removal of above-head fuel storage at Wandai Depot. Further works include the removal of 2 small buildings which will improve traffic management within the depot and disposal of non-used assets and addressing workplace health and safety regulations. Council awarded a contract to Paul Reeves for the renovation of 2 bathrooms in the Brighthaven units and 2 bathrooms in the Drayton units. Works have commenced and due to be completed by the end of June. Both sets of units have been fully tenanted during 2019 and 20, up until the works commenced. Due to COVID-19 restrictions, the peanut thrasher will now be restored and repainted by a local contractor. This will ensure the thrasher restoration can be completed within timeframes and moved back to the Kingaroy Vic and Heritage Museum. The property section of the council is continuing to handle lease inquiries, surveying of lease areas and negotiations of lease conditions as an ongoing work in progress with community groups and commercial operators. The issue of vandalism, particularly in Kingaroy, was higher this year than previous years, and there are challenges that this behaviour brings to maintaining community assets. In the last 7 months, between the 21st of September 2019 and 11th of May 2020, the cost to council of vandalism has totaled $14,967.18. Council will be grateful for help from any member of the public who witnesses an act of vandalism to please call Police Link on 131 444. And finally, in Indigenous Affairs, Parks and Gardens assisted with the tidy up of the checkpoint area at Sherburgh by whippersnipping the fence line both sides from Borkitts Road to 100 metres past the checkpoint, as well as mowing the crib, hut and car park areas. The federally funded footpath project from Sherburgh to Mergen has been put on hold due to the COVID-19 restrictions. Council is working with Venus Rabbit, who is a Waka Waka Indigenous artist, to paint an owl and a serpent as part of the disc display on the new Mergen footpath. On behalf of our council team, I would like to congratulate the new Mayor of Sherburgh, Mayor Elvie Sandow, and the new team on the Sherburgh Aboriginal Council. As the restrictions ease, it will be good to again be able to meet with the newly formed South Burnett Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander group to further advance relationships across our region. And that concludes my report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to move my report.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Duff. Do we have a seconder? Yep, thank you, Councillor Potter. Okay, do we have any comments to that very good report? Thank you, Councillor Duff. Thank you, Councillor Fraloff.
It's not really too much, but there is a correction that has to be made with the dams. You said that they reopened on the 1st of May. It should be the 15th. Yeah, just that's all I wanted to let you know.
Yes, Councillor. Thanks, Councillor Fraloff. We can just have that correction made. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Potter.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Duff, for your report. Now, that cricket pitch in River Road, now I get to talk about it. That cricket pitch was actually vandalised. Councillor Fraloff and myself saw that, and it was, not now, it was originally vandalised, which brought it to Council's attention. That would have been about 18 months ago, 12 months, 18 months ago. We found that at the same time that some other stuff was vandalised as well. So that table and chairs that was vandalised is now completely gone from BP walking track. And but because of this, this has actually cost council money to get this cricket pitch back up to the standard. But we didn't just go put it back the way it was. We actually put it back to a standard that was extremely high level. And there's still more work to be done, going to be done in that area with the nets and also around the pitch area. And they've done an amazing job. And we have to go and have a look because it is just an incredible pitch. I actually think I want to play cricket.
Yes, Councillor Jones.
Yeah, excuse me, I just want to endorse Councillor Potter's comments there. It may have cost council money, but this is money that I think is well spent. Anything to do with our young people, I'll support it every day, every minute of the day. I think it's money well spent. That particular area there, I was privileged to play cricket there years ago and all that sort of stuff, and it's been around for a long, long time. So to see that back up and running, I don't care how much it would have cost council because it's money well spent. And this Kingaroy Junior Cricket Club have worked their butts off to keep the support or the sport going for kids in the community rather than seeing them running down the street and doing vandalism and all that sort of stuff. It's given them somewhere to go on a Saturday morning, and they're doing a wonderful job. I've been a part of, my young fellow was part of that program, and they do a wonderful job, and now they actually have a home, and it's good to see that the council has supported that, so money well spent as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, well said. Thanks, Councillor Jones. Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, Councillor Jones, I agree, and I do agree with Councillor Potter's comments. I do think maybe we should make arrangements for a cricket game, or when restrictions ease, go and visit the cricket players and have a look at it up front and centre. I just wanted to comment that, dams are such a valuable asset for our region, and certainly in the work that I hope to do in that economic development space with my fellow councillors. I know we've had some preliminary discussions, and I think this is a great opportunity to really generate some funds from those dams, and I'd like to explore that more because I do think looking toward the future we have to find ways to use these assets responsibly and generate revenue elsewhere. So I think we're absolutely ideally located geographically to really maximise the value of those dams, and certainly I look forward to working in that space over this term to really look at those facilities carefully and see what kind of commercial return we may be able to derive from them for our shareholders, our ratepayers.
Yeah, well said. Thanks, Councillor Shoemaker. It's also important to note there that the more visitors we can get to those dams or water parks, as I like to call them, is also other businesses can leverage off that. Other tourist parks, other accommodation providers, small businesses in the communities, they can all leverage off that population inflow that we get, certainly at those peak times when we've got those dams back up and running. Now, it has been challenging with COVID-19, but I know that this council, I can share with everybody, this council, I know Councillor Duff, working with the staff, is putting together a strong plan to get those dams, those water parks reopened and get more people coming back into those smaller communities. Yeah, so well said. Could I just add a couple of other things too? And that is, in driving around the region over the last few days in my old rig, I have noticed the parks and gardens are looking pretty good right now. So I've got to say to Manager Greg and Mike Hunter and all the team, look, if anyone out there in the community has got areas that they want focused on, call our customer contact team. But what I'm seeing, the parks and gardens are looking really well. The guys got over. And when I say guys, that's the men and the women. They got over the hurdle of that massive backlog they had from that rain, and now they've moved into hedge trimming and whippersnipping and all these other things, and the place is looking quite good. And I've got to say, they should be congratulated for that, because they could have just had a bit of a spell after all that mowing, but they just didn't stop. They kept going. I think you can see the results there now. The tree planting program out near Rogers Drive, we've had a lot of good feedback on that, and also, of course, there's information now come out through the hard work of LGAQ, and with all credit to the Queensland government for announcing that the funding, the LGAQ's battle plan funding, has been approved by the Premier for the major part, and that'll start to flow through into our region in times to come. So a lot of that will impact, of course, beneficially on our parks and gardens and other assets around the region. So I want to acknowledge the Queensland government in responding to the LGAQ so swiftly as part of their COVID-19 response.
Mr. Mayor, it is a very minor point, and Councillor Freloff, the report was actually right, the 1st of May. Yeah. So we reopened the dams for the day use I just went to double check. I thought, that didn't sound right? So the first day use, that was with the freeing up of the park benches and the seating. Second, and the 50-kilometre radius, the second stage kicked in on the 15th, but the first was the day use only, which is what your report says was the 1st of May. As you said, it's only minor, but it just needs to be clarified for the record.
Yes, thanks, CEO Mark. Councillor Potter.
Yes, sorry, Mr Mayor. I just had a question through you, Mr Mayor, for Councillor Duff, with regards to the Red Park chairs that we're doing for the Red Rose Foundation. I know we've done one in the Kingaroy Main Street, but I'm just wondering where that's at with all the other surrounding areas, which ones have been done and which ones haven't.
I'll take that on notice because I know there's one in Proston. I know there's one in Mergen. I'm pretty sure there's not one in Nanango. Okay, so I will take that on notice and follow up with that because I'm not really 100% sure where that's at, and we're still waiting on those plaques, I think, as well, to with the domestic violence plaque to go on them.
That would be if General Manager O'May, because that's a question that the officers will follow up for you. So we'll be happy to. No, the manager was rolling them out. They had a good rollout, so I think you'll be, hopefully surprised as to where they've got to. Certainly the councillor's point on waiting on the plaques, but those sorts of operational ones, only too happy to find out for you.
Thanks, CEO Mark, and thanks, Councillor Potter, for the question. And we'll leave that one with you, General Manager O'May, and must also acknowledge yourself in the work that you've done in leading up that your Parks and Gardens crew. If you could please pass on Council's thanks for the work that they've done over that difficult rainy period, and also the work that they're continuing to do on bringing those Parks and Gardens up to a pretty good standard. So we look forward to seeing more to come, but well done, General Manager O'May. Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Duff. All in favour of the acceptance of Councillor Duff's report? Thank you all. That's been carried unanimously. Right, I do believe we're now moving on to item 13.1, which, Councillor Shoemaker, is your Economic Development Portfolio Report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My first official portfolio report to Council, so thank you for the opportunity. Council's Economic Development team reports directly to the Chief Executive Officer and works across two brands, Business South Burnett and Discover South Burnett. These brands are currently used in all promotional activities, including dedicated online and social media activities. The core fundamentals of Council's economic development function are to develop and maintain effective relationships within the community, local business, industry organisations, government agencies, and with potential investors, enhance and support business investment, growth and retention within the region, and implement Council's strategy and direction, which is yet to be reviewed by this Council. As part of the corporate planning process over the next 6 months, it's recommended Council work toward redefining the core role, responsibilities and expectations of Council's economic development function. This means our Council will set a clear strategic plan for its role in economic development and tourism, including the future operations of our visitor information centres. This process will ensure all activities are aligned to Council's desired outcomes with a strong focus on meeting the region's needs, supporting its ongoing sustainability and looking to opportunities for future growth. As part of Council's recent induction program, each councillor was provided with a draft copy of the draft 2025 South Burnett Economic Development Strategy for information purposes. Following post-budget discussions, I would like to see Council prioritise finalising this strategy in preparation for planned public consultation prior to its adoption. This process will include setting a clear expectations and accountabilities aligned to Council and the broader community's desired direction, as well as defining a suitable reporting structure in terms of suitable key performance indicators. Council will work to review and workshop the draft 2025 South Burnett Economic Development Strategy to set a clear strategic direction for its economic development and tourism functions as soon as reasonably practicable. These discussions are to include a review of the future operation of visitor information centres, and I would very much like volunteers across our visitor information centres to be a part of those discussions, because I do see they have an important voice in this space. In terms of COVID-19 and economic recovery, the evolving impacts of COVID-19 pandemic represent what is said to be the most significant challenge to Australia's economy since the Second World War. Across the South Burnett, businesses and industry continue to adapt and flex to what is considered the new normal, strengthened by the region's diverse and unique economy that in some ways will continue to help cushion the blow, and certainly our agricultural sector is really important in that space. Limited rainfall and the prolonged impacts of drought continue to present ongoing challenges across the agricultural sector for graziers, producers and associated supply chains. Factors including fluctuating markets, concerns regarding water security, grain shortages, increased export or transport costs and the like are just a few examples of the issues our region will continue to face. Since early April, Council's Economic Development team has helped to connect local businesses, groups, chambers of commerce, state and regional agencies to ensure the flow of information and reduce the potential of miscommunication. This has included facilitating the weekly South Burnett Economic Action Plan meeting, where all information shared at these meetings is communicated via the Beep Beep weekly e-newsletter that is distributed to Council's master business contact list and across the localised network. Membership of the localised network is free with the aim of connecting all businesses across the Wide Bay Burnett, providing a place to advertise goods and services to the local business community and engage with other businesses. There's some statistics there in relation to the readership of the newsletter, and certainly I'd like to acknowledge the role Council has played in general and the Economic Development team in terms of sharing information in that space. Particularly, we've talked about in Council the importance of those JobKeeper payments and making sure we're getting as much money that is available from the government into our region. The weekly meetings that have taken place have informed the local disaster management group on a range of subjects, including mental health for business, commercial and residential rent, JobKeeper implementation of physical distancing in retail spaces, takeaway food options, business situation reports and alike. The Economic Development team continues to actively engage in regional meetings and briefings regarding workforce requirements, tourism, hospitality, the pork industry, regional economic impact and recovery across the Wide Bay Burnett region. In terms of long-term shovel-ready projects in the pipeline, the Economic Development team has been working with a number of local private enterprises to scope a list of external shovel-ready projects based in the South Burnett that come to a total value of $42.8 million. If successful, these projects would encourage significant future growth and an increase in jobs in the region. The team will continue to support these stakeholders by connecting them with the relevant support bodies and agencies and advocating for funding within its networks and circles of influence. From a tourism perspective, Council's role is to contribute to the growth of tourism through overseeing the operation of visitor information centres, engaging with local tourism operators, regional and state bodies to inform tourism initiatives. Due to the significant changes in tourism and travel as a result of COVID-19 restrictions, Council decided at its April Council meeting to review the proposed 2020 marketing plan in collaboration with the South Burnett Tourism Advisory Committee. At the South Burnett Tourism Advisory Committee on the 11th of May, the committee discussed a short-term proposal to market the South Burnett to locals in an effort to encourage residents to explore local attractions and enjoy the many natural experiences on offer in our own backyards. Further work in shaping these marketing suggestions will be undertaken over the coming weeks in a way that aligns with the government's roadmap for easing restrictions. Planning for proposed marketing that concentrates on generating exposure in neighbouring regions as restrictions are relaxed and the travel radius is extended is currently underway. In the meantime, Economic Development team will continue to work closely with South Burnett Tourism Advisory Committee and the local tourism operator Visit South Burnett to understand how it may be best positioned to collaborate in any potential destination marketing activities into the future. And a strategy to open the visitor information centres, I believe, is currently underway and being considered for further information about the proposed dates to be provided at the next council meeting. In terms of the water security infrastructure project for North and South Burnett options assessment phase, the Australian Government's National Water Infrastructure Development Fund grant for the study of water supply requirements in the North and South Bennett region is administered by the Department of Natural Resources, Mines and Energy. To date, this study has examined the feasibility of a range of options that would increase water security for urban users and enable the growth and expansion of industrial and agricultural activities in ways that will create jobs and support economic growth. While COVID-19 has changed the way in which community consultation was being conducted with key stakeholders recently, online meetings and telephone calls have been ongoing. Currently, the project has progressed to the stage 2, the options analysis stage, previously known as the preliminary business case, and will identify the preferred options that best address the problems and deliver the required benefits through a robust process of review and analysis. The purpose of this stage is to reduce the long list of options to a short list, which will be subject to further detailed individual analysis. So I'd like to move that my economic development portfolio report be received. Move the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. And seconded, thank you, Councillor Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question on the water study. With the stage 2, will that go back out to the stakeholders, or is that how much more consultation will there be?
Yeah, Councillor Shoemaker.
I think that's definitely a question for GM Meehan. However, we have caught up with the consultants last week for a briefing, and certainly from my position and involvement in this project, I am anticipating contacting anybody who has been consulted in the process, just to really understand that level of involvement that they've had prior to now, and really make sure that they're included in any communication going forward. So I know COVID-19 certainly made it difficult to engage in the way that Council had anticipated to do so, but I think you're right. I think it's really important that we make sure we're having really robust discussions about this next phase, particularly when it comes to shortlisting that long list of projects.
Thanks, Councillor Shoemaker. General Manager Meehan.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Agree with the councillor's comments. What will happen this week is there'll be a meeting of the steering group, which is made up of the Mayor, Councillor Shoemaker and Councillor Henson, myself and the CEO. We'll meet tomorrow to review the project and see how that project will be taken forward. I think there's a fairly strong consensus from both officers and elected that there's another round of community consultation we would like to see undertaken. So we'll be looking to map out that what that looks like in the next couple of weeks, particularly as that list is reduced.
Yes, thank you, General Manager Meehan, and it certainly is our intention, Councillor Duff, to ensure, those of us on the steering committee, to ensure that we work with the consultants to have that next stage in the process heavily consulted across the community, and that's certainly a large part of our conversation tomorrow afternoon. Right, could I just make a couple of observations? The economic development, strategy development is clearly an important one. Councillor Shoemaker, thank you, as we lead into working with the community and our organisation to develop that and to put in place appropriate key performance indicators for us as a council in working with our ED team. Also to acknowledge, of course, the wonderful volunteers that do work in our VICs, and it's nice to hear you talk about involving them, because I know they've got a lot of wonderful concepts and ideas that they'd like to put forward as to the future operations of those centres. Yeah, thank you. Okay, well, if there's no further comments, thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. Good report. Councillor Duff.
Sorry, it's National Volunteers Week this week. We should just acknowledge all our volunteers, particularly as we've been talking about the volunteers at the Visitor Information Centres. So just want to have a big shout out to all our volunteers. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Duff. Of course, I'm sure we all feel, we all understand very intimately well that without the volunteers across the region, be it in the visitor information centres, in our incorporated associations, sporting clubs or arts groups or whatever it might be, our region would not be what it is without those volunteers. They are very much the fabric of our community society. Yes, thank you very much. Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Duff. It definitely was remiss of me not to mention Volunteer Week and to thank and acknowledge all of our volunteers across our visitor information centres, libraries, all council facilities in which people of our community engage in council activities. It's really, really valuable. I just further to my report, I'm just really keen to explore the economic development strategy, and I think it does play a really key role for us. I think looking across the community at the moment, in the many conversations I've had, I have picked up the phone and talked to a lot of people over the last 4 weeks around what they see the role of economic development being for our community, and what role council plays in that. And I've certainly, across the board, I think we've seen in many of the conversations that have been had a real shift in responding to the immediate crisis, which was COVID-19, and looking to how we do function in this newfound normal. And I think it would be a great opportunity for council to really push the reset button and to learn the lessons that have been learned across industry and across our region and businesses as a result of this pandemic, and really challenge ourselves to change and ask what is relevant and what we can do better going forward. I think everyone is really starting to consider what their priorities are, and certainly we've seen business pivot in incredible ways, with the impacts of COVID so diverse. It's impacted everybody differently, and every business operation. So, I do ask, I think there are opportunities for us to learn from this pandemic, to push that reset button in that economic development space and commit to better ways of doing things as we look forward and really try to deliver on and serve our community's needs in that area. I think we are well placed for growth in this region going forward.
Yes, well said. Thank you, Councillor Schumacher. Right. Well, we've had Councillor Schumacher move to accept the report. All in favour? Thank you, councillors. Passed unanimously. We'll now move on to item 13.2 at 173, which is the South Bennett Tourism Advisory Committee's February 2020 minutes. And we've been provided with a copy of the minutes from the South Bennett Tourism Advisory Committee meeting held on that date, 10 February 2020. The officer's recommendation is that council receive the minutes of the South Bennett Tourism Advisory Committee's meeting held on 10 February 2020. Do we have a mover for that? Thank you, Councillor Potter. Second, thank you, Councillor Jones. Any commentary in relation to that? No? Okay. All in favour? Good. Thank you, councillors. Passed unanimously. Right. I believe I want to item 14, consideration of notices of motion. I don't believe we have any notice of motion, do we, for the meeting? No? So we'll acknowledge that and move on to item now 15.1 at 180, which is the list of correspondence pending completion of assessment report. And at 180, you'll see there that there is a list. CEO Mark, do I need to read that list out? No. So the officer's recommendation is that the list of correspondence pending, as shown at page 180, in relation to the completion of assessment report, be received. Do we have a move for that? Thank you, Councillor Jones. Second, thank you, Councillor Duff. All in favour? Thank you. Resolution passed. The delegated authority report is at 181, and the report comprises a listing of any reports that have been approved by delegated authority, and the application for a negotiated decision for material change of use at a Cornish Street property was approved on the 29th of April 2020 by the CEO under delegated authority. This report, and the officer's recommendation is that the delegated authority report be received. Do we have a mover for that? Thank you, Councillor Duff. Seconder, thank you, Councillor Henson. All in favour? Thank you, councillors. Resolution passed. Okay, now we, in accordance with sections 275 1H and sections 275 1F of the Local Government Regulation 2012, we do have two matters to be dealt with under that, and we'll now move to go into closed session. Do we have a mover for that? Thank you, Councillor Fryloff, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Henson. All in favour? Thank you, councillors. Passed unanimously. Mr. CEO, do we now... Okay, well, we'll now move to reopen the meeting. Thank you, Councillor Duff. Seconded by, thank you, Councillor Froloff. All in favour? Thank you. Okay, we've now come out of committee, out of closed session, and the Mayor reported that whilst in closed session, in accordance with Section 271F, starting or defending legal proceedings involving it, and Section 271H of the Local Government Regulations 2012, other business for which a public discussion would be likely to prejudice the interest of the local government or someone else, or enable a person to gain a financial advantage of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council considered matters concerning Technology 1 and an insurance claim. The first matter in relation to Technology 1 is item 16. Oh, sorry, I've got to... Oh, yes, sorry. So I'll move that Mayor's report be received. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. All in favour? Thank you. Voted carried unanimously. We'll now move on to item 16.1 of those two matters at 182, and the officer's recommendation is that Council delegate to the Chief Executive Officer to enter into a 3-year contract with Technology One to move to the SaaS/cloud-based platform. Do we have a mover for that? Thank you, Councillor Froloff. Seconded. Thank you, Councillor Potter. All in favour? Thank you, councillors. Passed unanimously. Item 16.2 at 183 is that Council accept the additional documentation, including a letter of demand and cost estimates associated with assessment number 21843-32000-000, and provide such documentation to the Local Government Mutual Scheme to assess the claim submitted. Do we have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Duff. A seconder. Thank you, Councillor Henson. All in favour? Thank you, councillors. The resolution has been passed unanimously. We'll now move to close the meeting. Thank you all. Thank you to the people of the community who have tuned into our live stream. We hope you have enjoyed and found the council meeting informative, and look forward to seeing you all back here next month. Thank you all. Meeting closed.